Out of the gates and ready to go. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow underway on this Wednesday edition. Glad you're with us across the network, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and much more. OutKick.com as well. Big show planned. They're always big. Ryan Leaf joins us, former Washington State quarterback, to discuss the demise of the Pac-12, the collapse, and also get his thoughts on Johnny Manziel admitting in the Untold Johnny Football documentary on Netflix that he considered taking his own life. Ryan Leaf has struggled with addiction and much more, and we'll get his take on that coming up in 20 minutes. Clay Travis, our leader, our fearless leader, on book tours across this country. Now he joins us. He tours every Wednesday.
The book
right
tour
here.
continues. We'll talk about the book, I'm sure, today on the show.
Curt Schilling as well in hour 3. Always a great conversation, great stories coming from one of the best to pitch off the mound in Major League Baseball. Chad, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Hutton. Excited about today's show. You brought up Johnny Football, and the more I think about watching this documentary, I feel like we could just pick one of 17 to 30 topics that were revealed in that show and discuss every day. One that I just want to drop in there randomly today is the fact that his buddy Nate completely fabricated the idea that he was rich from oil money. I just now thought about that, and I thought, wow, I believe that all along.
I did too.
Now, his family is well off. They're not super wealthy. But he explained the private jets, the trips to Europe, the trips to Cabo, the Vegas trips, all those things while at A&M.
And that made sense because of the connection there.
And explained it away because he said, yeah, I'm allowed to do these things because my parents are wealthy with oil money. And in the documentary, his buddy Nate, his handler, admits, yeah, we made that completely up. And they're just grinning at the camera while saying it.
We should have a Manziel discussion for sure. Billy Lucci should join us for that too.
Oh, man.
For all the topics and stories.
Again, we could – I just mentally jotted down like 10 points that you could just hit. Like him saying he never watched a second of film while a Cleveland Brown quarterback is like 11th on the list of biggest things that he said in that documentary. It's really, really good.
You mentioned getting rich and making up the story. San Diego State's trying to get rich or get wealthy off of Power 5 money. That's where we begin our top headlines today on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. Chad, San Diego State, I don't know where they come from, the idea that they have the most power in the Mountain West, but their president, Adela De La Torre, she apparently had the discussion with the remaining Pac-12 schools, trying to also earn the trust and the alliance with some of the top powers that be in the Mountain West, as well as the American, and form their own version of what the Pac-12 was, and have the idea that they would be a part of the Autonomous Five, the Power Five, which is written in the NCAA Constitution, which the Autonomous Five have the most voting rights and power. And they also receive $80 million, all 5 conferences. Now it'll soon be 4. $80 million from the college football playoff. That's why San Diego State wanted to replace Colorado. And after headed back to the Mountain West, where they just signed a recent media contract in 2020 that runs out in 2026, they are trying to form their own version and, in effect, leave the other powers that be in the other programs out to dry, much like the 4 remaining in the Pac-12. This was not received well. In fact, the presidents band together, and the Mountain West remains the Mountain West in solidarity. But here's San Diego State again trying to – they're like the guy who knows too much and then gossips to everyone and tries to do things beneath the surface, but then everyone else talks and reveals who – the spy was, so to speak, who's the gossip queen in the room. To me, that's San Diego State here throughout this entire process. Well,
look, it feels like, the old saying, if you're not cheating, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
What does Boise State about this?
I feel like in the sad state of kind of where things are headed now, if you were not being completely tunnel vision selfish right now and trying to do whatever you can as either a program or a conference, then you're probably going to get left behind. Let's just go look at Washington State and Oregon State, who sat behind, didn't outwardly go out of their way to try to contact other conferences and flirt with them and ask if they would take them. No one was flirting with them either. And now they're dust. I mean, they hope to be added by the Mountain West Conference. The Pac-12 is no more because they were following the company line and being a good member of their conference in good standing in the Pac-12. I can't hate San Diego State for this. Well, they're simply looking out for number one, and they're looking at the future, and they're saying, if we can cherry pick the top teams from our conference and the American, then maybe, just maybe, with the 4 remaining Pac-12 teams, we can form a new Pac-12 that will be up to the standards of the College Football Playoff Committee, and we can keep that at-large bid as a Power 5 conference. It backfires because when you talk, others are going to talk. So when they're going to these other schools, they got ratted out, and now they look like idiots, but I guess at least they're looking out for themselves.
Yeah, but they should – well, let's circle back to this later in the show because they should be thankful for the Mountain West right now, because if not for the Pac-12 turning them down a month ago, they would be on the outside looking in just like Oregon State, Washington State, and others right now, Stanford and Cal. They would be them and not have the $4 million per year that they currently hold, which is more than what the institutions I just mentioned are receiving in their media deal after this season. So I'm interested in the idea of what San Diego State's trying to do and how they go about including whatever they're putting together as a Power 5 conference moving forward.
Also, quickly, no one cares about hindsight in this whole thing.
That's right.
Because the Pac-12 had a chance to merge the Big 12 2 years ago. They didn't. Now they look like idiots. They also had a chance to add San Diego State. They didn't. Now they look like idiots because they're no longer a conference. San Diego State wanted to join the Pac-12. They would look like idiots if that was allowed by the guy who should have added them but didn't, and now he's one of the biggest failures. So what happened last week, last month, 2 years ago, or yesterday has no bearing on the future, and teams and conferences are going to do whatever the heck they want
except
to
for
save
the fact
themselves.
that whenever they didn't join the Pac-12 because the conference didn't want them, from then to now, the Pac-12 is still without a media rights deal. And San Diego State could effectively be with the group that was left behind within a 30-day notice. It's kind of crazy how they went back to the well again and were again denied when the Pac-12 should have added them at the chance when Colorado bolted. Deion Sanders, Chad, he spoke with the media, and while he's discussing his foot rehab, where he says he hopes to be able to run on the field in Fort Worth to open the season for Colorado, he was asked right out of the gate about conference realignment, Colorado effectively starting the domino effect of what we've seen over the last 30 to 40 days in the Pac-12.
Colorado is headed as far as this kind of craziness going on with college football.
What craziness you talking about?
Well, just different teams moving.
Man, I don't care nothing about no different teams moving. We trying to win, man. I don't care what we play.
Okay.
I don't care what conference, who we're playing against. We're trying to win. All this is about money. You know that. It's about a bag. Everybody's chasing a bag. Then you get mad at the players when they chase it. How's that? How do the grown-ups get mad at the players when they chasing it when the colleges are chasing it?
Yeah, that's true. I
know that's true.
Couple more teams moving today. Rumor. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, same teams are talking about us, right? Oh, Lord, that was good.
There's Deion there, and the same teams that we're talking about Colorado, he's referring to Oregon and head coach Dan Lanning, who had this to say about Colorado leaving. This was prior to Oregon and Washington bolting for the Big Ten.
Not a big reaction. I mean, I'm trying to remember what they won to affect this conference. I don't remember. You remember them winning anything? I don't remember them winning anything.
So Lanning saying that in tongue-in-cheek, but, man, it looks bad when a week later Oregon is doing the exact same thing. And later, like 20 minutes later, Deion sits there and answers all these different questions about the team, about kickoff. One of the last questions was about the hate that he garners from programs across the country, coaches, and those that are trying to jab primetime whenever he's doing something that really everyone else is talking about doing beneath the surface.
Coach, it seems like a lot of people have had opinions about you, the program, the transfer portal, whatever it seems to be. As a player, did you ever internalize that and put that energy into proving them wrong? Or what is your mindset when people have opinions? What do you do with that? Do you just block it out or do you use it?
I don't care. Look at me. What about me would make you think that I care about your opinion of me? Your opinion of me is not the opinion that I have of myself. You ain't make me, so you can't break me. You didn't build me, so you can't kill me. You know what? God established me, so you ain't nothing you can do to me. I've been dealing with this foolishness since Pee Wee football, man. I've been him. I've been a difference maker, a game changer. I've been that guy. So what will change now that I'm coaching? Not a darn thing. I'm not even playing the game, and you got an opinion of me. I'm not even on the field. But I'm pretty sure I get every darn coach I'm playing against, head coaches. And anything you want to do. But I love it, but I don't care. And I wish the world thought like that. Youngsters, if you're out there right now, do not give a darn what opinion people have of you. As long as that opinion is not consistent of that of yourself. You be you. I'm not playing to make you feel good about me. I already feel good about me. I'm good.
I love when he's intentionally ruffling the feathers. Don't give a darn also needs to be a T-shirt for the show.
Don't give a darn should be a T-shirt. I love it when a guy is in the biggest sunglasses possible and telling people to look right at him, look me in the eye, and look at me. Do I look like someone who cares about
with
what
a
people
gold
think?
whistle around his neck.
I think back to the Bulls documentary, the docuseries, and when Michael Jordan was accused of gambling. Remember, he did the interview in sunglasses with Ahmad Rashad, and Ahmad was like, "Man, you showed up looking like a gangster, like a gambler. Like if I had looked up in the dictionary what a gambler looks like, it would be Michael doing this interview in sunglasses." I love that from Deion, and I believe him. So many times, if people say, "I don't care what others think about me," they're saying that because they 1,000,000% care about what others think about them. I don't think that with Deion Sanders. I believe he's being honest about not really caring. But wasn't it Pat Narduzzi that he had to ask who? I don't even know who that is. Remember the someone was talking about
it
him?
was
The first
Narduzzi.
thing was, I don't who.
Who's that
I've
guy?
Never met him. Don't know who that is, which is great. Look, it's going to be a thrill ride.
Yeah.
I saw.
And maybe bumpy.
I think it was on 3 Sports put, name the record for Colorado at the end of September with their first 5 games. And it's TCU, Nebraska, Colorado State, USC, Oregon.
Yeah.
I think are their first 5. And I immediately said 0-5 is a possibility in that first 5. But even if it's 0-5, it's going to be an entertaining 0-5 because of that guy we just saw right there wearing sunglasses inside during his press conference.
And the cowboy hat on the sideline, hopefully.
Love it.
That's what we need. We didn't certainly. Deion said he didn't know about Narduzzi. We didn't know about Kevin Brown, who was the Orioles play-by-play announcer, and now we do because he was suspended indefinitely for comments where he is referencing a graphic about 15 straight series losses that the O's had to the Rays, and how the Orioles had won 3 of 5 games and had done better in that entire span this year than what they had done previous this season. And ownership said that it made them look cheap. And they suspended him from the broadcast where he's on contract with Masson to do about 150 of those games. Well, he's expected back Friday in Seattle, but not before the fan base, Chad, was chanting "Free Kevin Brown" at the recent O's game last night. And I'm glad this happened at Camden Yards. He's going to be back, and it never should have happened in the first place.
I love it. I would also like to get a few fans in the upper deck at Camden Yards, considering they have the best record in the American League right now. But, hey, the lower bowl was packed, and they were all chanting "Free Kevin Brown." I did my Fox News Minute on this, and it's become a big talking point, and I'm not going to say anything earth-shattering here. I'll just repeat what everyone knows. This is one of the softest decisions I've ever seen from an increasingly softer sports society of teams and team-run enterprises. They are the softest group in the world. If you say anything remotely negative about them and you are in any way employed by the team, you will get suspended. You'll have something bad happen to you. He didn't say anything bad. He was illustrating a previous poor record against a team that they are playing well against in 2023 to show the improvement of the Orioles as maybe the best story in Major League Baseball. And now the Orioles, the best story in Major League Baseball, have taken a great season. It continues to be a great season. And they've turned it now into a storyline that's self-inflicted about how soft the owner is.
We said that
for suspending this guy.
Made them look cheap, but it's also this makes them look cheap. They're winning at a pace where they're going to be the top team in the American League, and now the story is about Kevin Brown stating and referencing a graphic on the screen that he didn't make for the broadcast, where it references the losses previous and the wins this year against another good Rays team.
He talked about they had lost, I think, 18 series in a row against the Rays until this year. And then he was illustrating that, how much better they are this year. It doesn't make anybody look cheap. It makes them look weak. It makes the decision makers with the Orioles look incredibly weak and thin-skinned. I mean,
in the case of the Orioles, they also run the TV network.
Yeah, we know pro sports teams can be very thin-skinned. This is the next level.
This is right
when
there.
I was sent the clip of it, I heard it, and usually I can pick out, I see now why they suspended him even though it's weak. I couldn't even take away one thing that was bad in what he said. It was a pre-produced open with graphics from the TV team. There was nothing bad about it. He was using past negative moments in Orioles history to illustrate the turnaround.
And it was setting up a series with the Rays back at the end of July. This stems from there to now, and the team says he's going to be back soon. Reports are he's back Friday night in Seattle.
Kevin Brown could be 12 years old or 52 years old. I have no idea. He's one of those guys.
He'll always look
He's
the
got
same.
one of those faces that I don't know how old he is.
Ryan Leaf joins us next. Perspective on the Pac-12 and the teams that remain, including Washington State. That's next.
Jason Aldean's new song. Jason Aldean's new song, Don't Try It in a Small, Try That in a Small Town, is awesome. It's basically saying to you Antifa clowns out there and you rioters, look, you can go ahead and burn down Democratic-run cities. And the cops, at least in Indianapolis, will be told by an alleged drunken mayor to stand down. That's fine. But don't try that in a small town. You saw what happened in Crown Point, Indiana. Crown Point, Indiana, there was rumored that a group was coming in to tear it up. Crown Point's just a little south of Gary. And all the fellas got their shotguns out and lined the streets. Do you know how much trouble there was in Crown Point, Indiana? Bam. Zero. Zip. Nada. Liberals went nuts. Oh, this is racism. No, not really. Hey, there's white Antifa. There's black Antifa. You're just protecting your streets. You're just protecting the businesses that you use. See, here in Indy, we did not protect the businesses that we use. We let idiots run wild. We let idiots burn. We let idiots break. We let idiots destroy. That's not the way to go about it. You try that in a small town. Here's what happened in Ottawa Lakes, Michigan, where my wife's from. There was a rumor, group was coming up from both Toledo and Cincinnati. And they were going to go into this gun store and loot it. Word got out. Neighborhood app got started. You know what happened? The fellas, I think it was Ottawa Lakes. There's another town right there. It could be a different town. I don't know. They're all there. You know what happened? The fellas surrounded and protected the gun store. You know the rest of the story, right? The Antifa pussies came up, looked around, saw they were being challenged, and like every single group of bullies, turned around and left. Damn right. That's a small town. And if you think Don't Try It in a Small Town country music, television or whatever is racist, tough. Good for you. We don't. It's number one on the charts. And I put out a tweet earlier today of an African-American guy, big, strong guy, that said, hey, don't be coming down here to Alabama. African-American guy. I'll retweet it. Said, don't even think about coming down here and starting that crap. Don't even think about it. Well, guess what? He ain't wrong. It ain't about black or white. It's about protecting the businesses that you use against people that are trying to destroy your town. And Jason Aldean ain't wrong, baby. And you liberals can bitch and whine and moan and write your articles and try to cancel him or cancel me for standing up for it or get mad at OutKick. I don't care. I love seeing what happened in Ottawa Lakes. You want to come in here? Ain't happening. It just ain't happening. Crown Point, Indiana, everybody called them racist because it was white guys with shotguns. You know what they did? They protected their town. I wish we'd have protected our town here in Indy. You go into Indy, it is awful, horrendous, horrific. Nothing going on downtown for the most part.
Sixth and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick Network. Glad you're with us. Our first guest of the afternoon, you can find him in so many different places now. Good Morning Football, where he's crushing it. The podcast has been excellent. The Straight Line podcast. Ryan Leaf joins us from an airport near you on his way somewhere beautiful, I'm sure. Ryan, Good to see you, man. Hope things are well.
Good to see you guys too. Yeah, we're good. It's kind of worked out. We had a little delay, headed back to my home state, Montana, for a little family reunion before things get crazy, before the season kicks off. So I'm excited for that.
Congrats on finding the most beautiful airport backdrop I've ever seen. It's an amazing. I mean, this is top notch. 10 out of 10 work by you to find this backdrop.
It looks like you're home.
And it was like, this was just by accident. My kid was like, let's sit here. And my wife walked us around the whole place. And then I sat it down, and it's got marble. It's got the lighting. I mean, I'm just made for this entertainment business, guys. It just seemingly lines up.
We are around 15 days or so from college football kicking off. And the discussion is about more conference realignment. And now we see what has happened with the Pac-12 and, the fact that they're done. As someone who has played in that conference with Washington State and knowing that Washington State is on the outside looking in now after all of the expansion has taken place this offseason, what comes to mind? What's your reaction? And should everyone have seen this coming from within the conference?
Well, first, I'm devastated. It's maddening that it's playing out like this. And yes, everybody should have seen this coming. As soon as you saw UCLA and USC walk out the door last year, George Kliavkoff needed to sew up that media rights deal to hold everybody in. They had to sign their grant of rights then. Instead, he let a limping Big 12 gain momentum, go find some teams, get themselves a media rights deal that's really special. And so, unfortunately, you got to lay this at the feet of the commissioner and, of course, at Larry Scott, who kind of put them down this path. But yeah, the fact that they kept waiting and seeing things go away, that's a big reason why we're in this position that we're in right now.
What does Washington State do now? Is it the Mountain West? What are you hearing there? And from your vantage point, should they have been doing more to try to latch on somewhere, more vocal, much like we've seen with Colorado, for instance, what Florida State's trying to do in the ACC?
I think President Schultz, who was the chairman of the board of governors, I feel like he was trying to be as optimistic as he could and keep everybody together. And I think that's what a good leader tries to do. Unfortunately, you had other guys out there running around, and George Kliavkoff continued to present and say that I'm going to bring a successful media rights deal to the table. And he just was not able to secure that. It's ironic to me that these teams are able to leave the conference and go to others, and therefore sign these big deals for these big media rights money when you couldn't keep all 12 of them together to do the same thing. It just doesn't quite make sense. And of course, you've got to look at some of the networks and their handling of this and how they want to go. But ultimately, and I think, Jonathan, you and I have talked about this, we're venturing to the place of the National Collegiate Football League. We're going to get there. Probably within the next 5 years, I would gather 18 to 22 teams in each conference to set up for the whole league. And the teams that can and vie for these things are the teams that can generate the most money, the most of everything, and therefore be a part of it. And there'll be relegation. And essentially, we're seeing the relegation play out in the Pac-12 right now. But nationally, we're going to see that ultimately take place. And hey, Chip Kelly said something really, really good the other day. Football is the outlier in all this. Why doesn't every football team in the country just become independent? 64 of the teams. Let the conferences stay the same when it comes to the basketball, when it comes to soccer and softball and everything. And then you play it out that way. I mean, it sounds so simple. You wonder why it hasn't been discussed more. I thought he was very, very forward thinking when he talked about that earlier today.
I totally agree with you on the different sports breaking away from each other. And when you look at it, and you're right about this becoming sort of a minor league model of the NFL with regional halves and they separate from the have-nots. But before, we always looked at it, well, it'll be the Power Five, then a select few programs elsewhere that'll be involved in that. But now, when you look at it, is Washington State and Oregon State out for good? Or is there a way they could work their way back into that level where they're going to be a part of the haves moving forward?
It all comes down to presidents in a boardroom, sitting over spreadsheets. That's what it's going to be. No matter how well, the teams do. I mean, Washington State's one of the most viewed teams around the country when it comes to the Pac-12. And if you're looking for, regional viewing, and then you look at the teams that have been successful. Washington State's been about as successful as anybody over the last decade. Versus Oregon, versus everybody. And it hasn't mattered. I mean, Oregon State realistically can win the Pac-12 conference this year. That's how talented they are. 10 wins a year ago, probably should have been beat USC. They don't have to play a couple teams this year. They get some of the best ones at home. I would love it if the Beavers ran away and won the Pac-12 conference this year in a year where no one else wanted them. It would put a bow on it, boot out everybody else who wasn't man enough to stay and fight, and take home that silver, go to the college football playoff. Boy, that would be a lot of fun to see.
Ryan Leaf with us on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow, discussing the Pac-12 collapse and where we go from here. Do you like the idea of just joining up with the Mountain West? Do you want to go independent? Like, as someone who's following the program and was excellent there, what's next?
If I'm George, I'm trying to bolster the conference. I'm trying to, get Boise State, San Diego State, SMU, Tulane, South Florida. South Florida is going to be a beast in a couple of years. If you can land them, and that's something I'm pretty sure the Big 12 is looking at. Marshall, maybe some of those schools that I think, you got to try your best to bolster something to make it good. But if you're not able to do that, I think what you look to is you talk to the commissioner of the Mountain West and you say, hey, let's merge, and now you'll be part of the Pac-12 conference. It's because that has some sway, some bravado. It's the Pacific Conference. So that's what I'd ultimately do. The Mountain West would then become the Pac, whatever that is, Pac-8, Pac-10, and go from there. That's what I hope happens, that Washington State gets to stay there. But if the Big 12 or the Big 10 or the ACC commissioners reach out and offer some sort of lifeline, you got to jump at it. You got to take it. That is the known right now. And to sit in limbo by yourself is got to be just, like I said earlier, maddening.
Ryan Leaf with us from a palatial airport on his way to hang out with family in Montana. I don't know if we haven't talked about if you've seen Untold Johnny Football, which is the new docu series on Netflix or not, but I know you've definitely seen the headlines where he said there was a time recently where he was going to kill himself. He was going to commit suicide. And you've certainly been through your struggles. You and I met and you've been vocal about it. You've been upfront about it. You and I met at an event that you were speaking at in regards to all of this. We had the director on yesterday, Ryan, and he said that he didn't know ahead of time that Johnny was going to go down that path until they were in the middle of the interview sitting down, and he went there and admitted that. What do you take away from just him saying that publicly and the state of mind where I would compare it? He was the character. He was Johnny Football, not Johnny Manziel, And I felt like when he admitted that, that was Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, I got a chance to watch it last night. I was hopeful for this, and I don't want to. I mean, I'd love to hear from Johnny. I mean, we probably heard 100 words come out of his mouth during the documentary. I mean, nothing. And I put this on Netflix. I would have loved to have been able to talk to that director today and said, you have done everybody such a disservice. Once again, people have taken advantage of Johnny Manziel. There was no solutions. There was no addressing the bipolar diagnosis and how he's dealing with it and how he's living with it around his substance abuse. And then at the very end, he talks about, being, back in the day, being in a frat. The football team was the frat. And then they show him, and he's sitting at a table with all his new frat buddies pounding beers. I don't know what they were trying to achieve. If they were trying to achieve like a montage of this great, unbelievable college football star, by all means, let's do it. But that's not what Untold has been doing. Go back and look at the Marty Fish mental health documentary they did. It's unbelievable. And I was hoping for that. So, why do it? I don't get it. I don't quite understand it. I put the blame at Netflix. I lay it at their feet. I feel like they took advantage of somebody that I don't know what they needed to maybe lift him up again. His dad and his sister talking about, why isn't he doing anything? Well, he's not in a place where he can. And, we want people who are still struggling and people who are gone through those types of things and the ability to talk about it like that, talk about wanting to take your own life, to showcase. I think that was a good first step. I'm glad they showed that, but it was just so awkward and out of place from what the whole thing was. And maybe I'm too close, or maybe because I see it from a different perspective, because I know a lot of my football friends have loved it because they've got to see this, this crazy rise of what that looked like in 2012 and 2013. But, for me, the way I'm looking at something is somebody who has a disease and needs to be treated. And I don't think they did him any service in that. And so, like I said, nothing against Johnny. He's doing what he has to do to figure it out. And I am here for him if that is ever anything he needs. But Netflix, that director, the producers on it, they did exactly what everybody's done for so long around mental illness and substance abuse. They stigmatized it, continued to do it. They talked about it like snippet and then just did not address it again the rest of the way. It was just so awkward to me. And like I said, I may be too close to it, but I also want him to be around. And I think he can be a beacon of hope to so many because he was bigger than life, bigger than anything I could accomplish. I feel like in terms of way people recognize and know him. And he can be that for people who are dealing with mental illness, people who are dealing with substance abuse, who have fallen to the very bottom and gotten back up and made something of their lives. And I wanted to see just, and maybe he's just not there yet, the philanthropic about making it about other people. And maybe he's just not there yet. And I get that. I had situations where I wasn't ready to be shown the mirror. And luckily I figured it out at some point. But yeah, I was incredibly disappointed with Netflix and Untold on what they could have done or should have done in this moment.
And this is why it's important to get your perspective on this. So we appreciate you coming on talking about this, because that your reaction is not my reaction to watching it. Obviously, different life experiences going into that. Having the director on, my first question to him was, how is Johnny doing now? And I don't think he could give us a very good answer to that. He kind of hinted around, well, the relationship with the dad's a little bit better. You saw him playing golf in the documentary, but his parents even talk about he's not really doing anything. So I'm glad you put that into motion in our minds now, Ryan, because I don't know that there is really a solution of where he is right now or where he's going next based on what we saw from him in this documentary. And you've never spoken to him, right?
I've tried for years, and I talked to his dad a bunch, and my wife was at a grocery store in LA and ran into him and his ex-wife at the time. And he finally came over to the house and we talked, and, I could tell he was just, it was when he was in Los Angeles and a lot of that stuff was going on where and I gave him a book that had really helped me. And we planned on getting back together and talking some more. And I was gonna, introduce him to some people, some fellowship things, and I've never heard from him again. So, like I said, that happens all the time when you start working with people who are new into recovery or things like that, and they just disappear because they're just not ready to, take an honest look maybe at everything. And so it was the one time. I still continue to talk to his dad from time to time, but I think at this point, I think his dad just kind of wants to be, kind of buddy, play golf and just make sure he's still alive. That's a scary, scary world to live in. And so I just wish they would have defined it one way or the other. Like this is a football documentary. We're going to show you Johnny football. We're going to talk about what the NCAA has limited these players for so long for, and I didn't want it to be something where he couldn't hold himself accountable, where he blamed the NCAA or wanted to play the victim in all this. I thought maybe the end was him and Nate reuniting when they split, when this guy that just covered his tail for so long, and instead, he's shooting high noons with his new golf buddies who are just part of a frat again. I just didn't quite understand the irony thing here. Somebody edited it and they hear him talking and Johnny says, I was in a frat. Yeah. I'm not in a frat anymore. And then you look around and they're all throwing darts and they're all boozing up. And I'm just going,
Ryan,
I mean, did the editors do that on purpose?
We're up against a break. Thank you for this perspective.
Appreciate you.
The visit from the airport. Ryan Leaf's the best.
The two biggest social media giants, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, are set to battle it out, and I'm here on Broadway asking people who they put their money on. Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk? They're going to fight each other. Who do you think's going to win?
I think Mark's got him.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Because he's a man.
Okay, and Elon Musk isn't?
Oh, well, of course, he's got money.
Okay.
He's got money. Money, well, money's money.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg in a fight?
I don't know. I'm going to go with Musk.
Why?
It just seems like he's a little bit younger, a little bit smarter.
You just got a good feeling about him?
I got a good feeling.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Musk.
Why?
He trains. That guy's going to beat his.
But Mark Zuckerberg is actually training jiu-jitsu for 9 months.
Not happening. Elon Musk all day. Elon Musk.
Why do you think?
He has no soul. I mean, I think he's definitely just going to no holds barred.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. I feel like he's stronger and smarter.
Oh, Elon Musk.
All the way? Why?
All the way. He's an animal. Think about it.
Mark Zuckerberg's been training for 9 months jiu-jitsu. You think Elon Musk can take him?
Yeah, I think he could take him.
Elon, that on God. Stop playing with Elon. Elon really do this out here. For real.
I hope Elon
Really? Why do you think so?
got better ideas.
Zuckerberg's like 5'7", 155. Musk is 6'1", 190. But Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, who's going to win in a fight?
Oh, Elon Musk. No doubt.
Why do you think so?
He's the GOAT. I've been seeing all the Twitter handles and all the talk, and I'm on Elon Musk's side. I'm ready for them to get in the WWE ring and then come off the top rope. That's what I want to see. I want to see a people's elbow to Mark Zuckerberg.
If one was more likely to be a lizard or a robot, who would it be?
Elon.
Okay.
I think Mark Zuckerberg will win.
Why do you think that?
Because I think he already trains MMA. So he's got like the prior experience and stuff. I mean, they're both billionaires, so they have the opportunity to get the best training. But I think Mark Zuckerberg will pull away with the win.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think so?
Because he's bigger.
Bigger, okay, but Mark Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Do you think that matters?
No.
Zuckerberg, he's part alien or robot, so he may have some secret powers that we don't know about.
I was going to say, is that an advantage? Does he have an advantage over Elon Musk then?
Yeah, I mean, if he, sheds his skin and becomes an alien and eats everyone, yeah, I think so.
Elon Musk is mental, so Elon Musk.
All it is just he's mental, he's mentally crazy, so...
He just wouldn't care, would he?
Okay.
He'd just absolutely go for it. I think Zuckerberg would be a bit more refrained.
Okay.
If that should ever happen, which I doubt, but you never know, it'd be entertaining.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Elon Musk.
Why?
Because my dad is in love with Elon Musk.
Okay.
I think I'm going to have to go with Zuckerberg. I mean, Threads just came out, so.
Who do you think would win?
Zuck.
Why do you think so?
He's not a real human. He's a robot.
So he'll use that to his advantage.
Yeah, and all the Krav Maga stuff too. Yeah.
Who do you think would win in a fight, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk?
Elon Musk.
Why do you think Elon Musk?
I think Elon's
He
smarter.
works with robots, so maybe he built a robot to fight for him.
But what if Mark Zuckerberg is a robot?
Oh wow. Then I might have to change my answer.
Who do you think's gonna win?
Me.
Always a great conversation with Ryan Leaf, and certainly there with perspective on Johnny Manziel and Washington State, among the four that makes up the Pac-12 right now.
Well, and look, I say this with full clarity based on talking with Ryan Leaf. His reaction to the Johnny Manziel doc is the absolute opposite of mine. I was entertained by it. To me, it was a fun look at just a wild time in college sports and a crazy look at a guy who went wild, for a time. But for someone from Ryan Lee's perspective, it's great to have that on because I have not personally had issues with addiction. But if you watch that as someone who's had issues with addiction, you're going to have a very different response to it the way Ryan did. So, Hutton, good job by you going out of your way to get him on the show today, last minute. Because if not, I don't think people would have heard a response from someone who has actually lived that. Right? I mean, if you want to see the prototype for what Johnny Manziel was in the NFL, it's Ryan Leaf.
Right.
First-round draft pick, college star, substance abuse issues, no doubt about it, with both guys. Yeah. Ryan Leaf is now at a point in his life where he's more honest and open about it. And, I mean, just looking at him there, looks as healthy as all get out. When you see him, and people are commenting on YouTube like, man, he looks great.
Yeah.
Ryan Leaf does. I did not get that full sense from Johnny Manziel. I thought he looked better than that photo of him in Vegas when he was down to 165 pounds or whatever it was, when he was on that $5 million bender. Yeah. I thought he looked better in the documentary than that point in his life, but we didn't get a lot of resolution as to how he's actually doing. So I thought that was a good point from a very different perspective coming from Ryan.
In our conversation yesterday, I said, look, I feel like you need more episodes with this, right, of where it left off. I mean, Netflix, my family, I've been affected by suicide. And so whenever Manziel's mentioning this, Netflix took advantage of it. I agree with Ryan in promotion. Those are stories everywhere prior to the Untold being dropped on Netflix about it. And that was a very small part at the tail end of what was a thrill ride of an episode. But I took it from the perspective of at least he's admitting it. And I thought from the director's point of view, he didn't go into it knowing that Manziel was going to say that. So in the moment, bringing that up is massive. But I mean, he's opening a bar in College Station called the Money Bar, and that will crush. But the Johnny football character that he lives every day, that's what he mentally tries to live up to, because he's got to be on, and I think that would affect anyone in the moment over time, and it certainly has him.
Yeah, and just how. So many takeaways from that. And again, it was great having the director on and having Ryan on for both perspectives. But we mentioned the story he told about, he said it on camera and they took a break and he walked out by a pool and said, "Are you okay to continue talking about this?" Something else that jumped out to me, normally when there's any talk of suicide on any type of show, they will put like a disclaimer on. You know,
or
the hotline.
The number, yeah.
The number on the bottom of the screen before or after. I don't remember seeing that on this documentary, but I'll have to go back and check for it. Yeah, look, I'm thankful that Ryan came on the show to share that perspective because it's an important one. And not one I necessarily would have thought about immediately watching it. But it was interesting how the documentary ends with him saying, I'm just a frat boy and football happened to be my fraternity, the football team. And then he got to the NFL and it wasn't fun because they weren't his frat brothers anymore. They were guys 10 years older than him with a wife and kids and just trying to stay on the team, and not everybody partied together. So he lost interest in that part of it.
He's putting on disguises.
And then they open the show. I mean, the first 45 seconds is him and his buddies vaping and doing beer bongs by a pool in Scottsdale, Arizona. So there was some interesting back and forth with that about where exactly he is now.
Yeah.
Another
maybe
excuse,
a bit
by the
better,
way, to
but
get
not much has changed.
Another excuse to get our buddy Billy Lucci on at some point to ask him about it. Probably in the documentary and as close to Johnny as anyone in media for sure.
And Ryan Leaf will be in town in the next couple of weeks too, I believe. So we'll try to get him back on as well for a longer conversation. Chad.
Also, by the way, interested about his wife running into Johnny at a grocery store in L.A. Had no idea about that.
And he said it was around the same time frame of the photos.
Yeah, when he was living in L.A.
We've got Clay Travis who will join us in about 35 minutes or so. That's looking forward to that. We've also got Curt Schilling coming up later in the show today. But first, primary complaint.
It's time to air our top grievance of the week.
You can complain all you want.
My job is so unfulfilling. Don't run away from your feelings.
It's time for Hot Mike's primary complaint.
Guys, my primary complaint this week, the golf course marshals who come out of nowhere to annoy the crap out of you. I was playing golf recently, a week or so ago, and this course, very nice. I appreciate it. I also appreciate the fact that the group in front of me loves this course, and the group behind me is also playing for that reason. The marshal, though, thinks that it's my group that is slowing down pace of play, when on the monitor in the golf cart, it tells me that I'm 2 minutes behind normal pace. And as this older gentleman comes up and asks me to speed up this entire group, I'm thinking, I would, except for we've got another group on the green that's also slowing down, and then they have a group in front of them. And it's the surprise element where they're coming out of the bushes or right next to the creek or over the wooden bridge when you least expect it, as if you're doing something wrong instead of just, waiting on the group in front of you. That's my primary complaint.
Also, I mean, it was the response be, do you want me to hit this golf ball into the back of the group that's on the green right now?
For me, it would be go ahead and hit, because you're not going to hit it that far.
Sir, you don't know how good or bad I am at golf. Don't
Davey,
presume.
What do you think?
Oh, my advice would just be stop playing golf.
Yeah,
golf is fun.
My favorite style of golf is getting a golf cart and a 12-pack of White Claw and driving around as my friends play.
Do you play Golden Tee?
White Claw.
Do you play Golden Tee, Davey?
I've played it before, yeah.
Yeah, I'm more of a Golden Tee guy. I love to watch. I'm the rare person who watches golf but doesn't play. I feel like I'm the the Venn diagram of that person's very small. I'd prefer to watch the sport of golf than to play golf.
I enjoy it. I try to get 2 or 3 great shots, and then it has me coming back. Davey, would you, back in the day, would this, I don't know if you ever, do you remember Zima?
No.
Oh, see.
Mike's Hard? Are you a Mike's Hard fan?
No, I never had it, but I know what it is.
What he just said is like, go around and drink the, what do you say, 6-pack or a 12-pack?
12.
If Davey
I wasn't driving
Zimas.
the car after that. I don't advocate for drinking and driving.
If Davey was in college around 2000, he would have been a Zima with Jolly Ranchers in it type of guy.
Nah, that's too
I'm
sweet.
willing to bet.
You guys ever have Four Locos?
Please, Davey, my primary complaint. Hold on. We'll get to yours here in a second. My primary complaint this week is people that loiter around a soda dispenser machine, soda fountain, soda machine, whatever you want to call it. By the way, I had to Google just to find exactly how to identify what this is. Everyone knows what it is. You go into a fast food establishment. You go into certain bars here at 6th and Peabody. They have one at the White Duck Taco stand where you go and you self-serve, get your drinks. There are places to stop and talk. That's most areas of a bar or a restaurant. There are also places for movement. And one place for movement is when you're getting ice and picking out your drink and getting it at one of these soda dispenser machines. So when I'm there just trying to refill my water, and you either stop and look at the 6 options in front of you, like there are 600 options in front of you trying to decide, and or pick that time to stop and text someone or to talk to your friend next to you and just stand there while I am shoulder to shoulder with you trying to get ice and water, don't. Time for movement, place for stopping and talking. One of those places for movement will always be right next to the soda fountain. This is my primary complaint. Now, Davey, you may speak.
Thank you, Chad. I want to address. I'll just go ahead and go straight into my primary complaint. All right, my primary complaint is that Elon's destroying Twitter. I was for the move when I heard it was going to happen, and now after he tells you he's going to make it much better, we're going to do all these things to make this platform awesome, all you're doing is putting all the awesome traits behind a paywall. So now, instead of you making it better, you're just basically taking what was free and making everybody to pay to have it, while also having certain things decline. I don't like the X remodel. The biggest thing I have is something that not a lot of people actually are aware of, but he made it to where you don't have access to the API, which what that is it pretty much just allows third parties to use the back end of Twitter, to where it's like if I want to load this tweet or my tweet archive up to a certain platform to where I can see like, oh, this is what I have tweeted every single day for the last decade, you no longer have access to that. Well, the big one that I'm not looking forward to is Spaces. And I know what it's like to see what you get when you pay and from a company account. And then on my private account, I've not paid, or my personal account. So I'm able to see the difference for both. And he's not giving you anything. He's just taking the great things and putting it to where you have to pay for it. That's not what I was hoping for. And now just to kind of dog on the guy, he could prove me wrong here, but now he's saying he needs an MRI because his back and he might need surgery so he can't fight Zuck at the moment. I'm like, dude, if you can't beat Jesse Eisenberg in a fight, like, what are you even doing? So get it together, Elon. You're really pissing me off.
I think it would be funny to watch Jesse Eisenberg versus the real life Zuck in a fight. I'm sure the real life Zucks, because the training would win now. Davey, are you afraid now that Charlie Arnault will not join the show based on her full support of all things Elon Musk after this take? If she were to see this, if she were to see this, she may just say, you know what? Anyone who badmouths my Elon Musk, I can never go on that show.
That's the great thing about OutKick, Chad. Get to express your opinion. And
different opinions. Yep. Different opinions. What exactly is X doing for the platform is what I want to know. We need to get Musk on the show to find out, because I don't – it hasn't really taken hold yet.
I don't know. I still think the whole thing's a troll job between the two.
Oh, the fight?
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of
in terms of like what the if it's better or worse, I honestly can't tell a huge difference as long as it stays on the following tab and doesn't go for you. If I'm just following the people I follow on
you're
there.
talking about the Twitter app?
Yeah, I'm saying he hates that he's destroyed Twitter. He doesn't like it. Davey doesn't like the functionality of Twitter anymore, or X.
There's not been a whole lot change as far as like what I'm seeing on my personal screen, but it's more of the extra elements where it's once they unveiled Spaces. You can't launch a space unless you pay for Twitter now. You can join one, but you can't launch it. And so it's just that, in my opinion, that's taking away from free speech, which is what he's apparently all about, or at least he claims to be. You also look at the component of...
Well, you can still tweet whatever you want.
You can, but he's limiting what you used to have.
That's the free speech, though. You can tweet whatever you want. That's his take. You can't do that on YouTube. You can't do that with Zuck.
Yeah,
you can still get your account shut down if you say the wrong things. It's a lot less. I'll give you that.
And we'll still use the accounts.
I'm sure that, yeah. You're talking about for premium access to do a show on Twitter or something.
Just
you have to pay for it.
You get a bunch of people together, like a lot of people have made contacts through Twitter. They just want to hop on, have a conversation. If you're not paying, you're not able to do that.
Yeah, look, I understand the business of it. I don't like that anyone can pay for a blue check mark. I feel like to have a blue check mark, you should pass some sort of criteria. Then they give you the option if you want to pay for it.
Right.
I would understand that. They're like, hey, you pay $100 for the year, and you have enough followers and are of a status where you can have a blue check mark. You can buy it if you want. I'm fine with that. I just don't like anyone with 14 followers that can pay for a blue check mark, and I'm seeing them all over the place now. That I don't like.
Well, I'm only paying attention to those I follow, though. You see what I'm saying? So if someone retweets someone with 14 followers, I would see it. But otherwise, I'm not going to check those verified accounts or whatever it is called now. Whatever X wants to call it.
I am of the belief that there's way too much power in the hands of Elon and Mark Zuckerberg right now when it comes to global technology and information. And I'm uncomfortable with all of it.
Everyone bows.
I'm very much uncomfortable with all of it. Too much power for two people.
Everyone bends the knee.
Yep.
Coming up, we've got top headlines, including Sean Payton, who's not allowing something on the sidelines this year. What is it? Well, it's definitely something that Nathaniel Hackett did last year. That's next on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted and then how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the second hour is here. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Glad you're with us. If you're live streaming, if you're listening to this great radio partner, we say thank you. Coming up in 20 minutes, Clay Travis will join us. Takes a break from the book tour. We'll set him up. We'll let him. I can't wait for the perfect story from the book tour. There's got to be one.
Yeah, I just like to. Yeah, I want to learn all about a book tour. I just want to know what that's like when you're out, pressing the flesh, greeting your public, signing. Like, what's the craziest thing he's been asked to sign in the book to someone? All of it.
And to who?
Yeah.
Sign this for so and so.
You're a dirty little boy and you need to be scrubbed. Love, Clay Travis. Has that been a request from anyone? Has anyone asked him to sign his Jonathan Hutton, the book?
Doubtful.
We'll get into that.
Doubtful.
Case of mistaken identity.
I could sit down at a local bookstore, though, and potentially sit in for Clay if he's tired.
Yes, Hutton will be at the Barnes & Nobles in Green Hills later tonight.
As Clay.
Where he will sign Clay's book. That would actually be a funny bit. If you could
I'm going to ask him about it.
Just send a picture of you and say Clay Travis signing books somewhere, and you show up and sign as Clay and see if you generate more sales for Clay. I like the idea.
Curt Schilling joins us in about an hour and 20 minutes from right now. A lot on Major League Baseball. Chad, across the NFL, preseason games about to get going. The hurry up and wait aspect of the NFL regular season is here. And as you look across the top storylines, there are plenty at certain positions. And one of the underlying stories, I haven't heard much about how Russell Wilson has been in practice with Sean Payton. It's been more about what Sean Payton's doing within the locker room and what he's saying about other coaches, specifically Nathaniel Hackett. But he has 4 rules that he's implementing for his players when they come out of the game throughout the preseason. Players must take off their uniforms after they're done playing. They are not allowed to wear sunglasses. That makes sense because it should be at night for the most part. Bucket hats, or as Payton called them, Gilligan hats, are strictly forbidden. Players, regardless of status, are not allowed to take interviews during the game. No further explanation given for the reasons of these rules. But a lot of these happen across the league. I guarantee you all of these happened last season with Nathaniel Hackett.
It's like he's just going through video of practice and games last year, and everything that even remotely irritates him, he is making a note of it and saying, I will eliminate this. I will eliminate this. Anything, he said it. Anything they did, we're doing the opposite this year. If I see dudes with Gilligan hats, as he calls it, on the sideline, those Gilligan hats can GTFO. If I see a dude that's got his jersey untucked and looks disheveled, well, we're going to eliminate that by getting the jerseys off of them the moment they're playing. And we're going to put a ball cap turned right side up, not backwards, on these guys. It really is just opposite day. It is whatever Nathaniel Hackett would do, whatever decision he would make, whatever he would allow, I will not allow. If he made this decision, we're doing the exact opposite. I think it's both psychological and exactly who Sean Payton is. There's also a solid chance Sean Payton is just the opposite of Nathaniel Hackett as a coach. We'll get into it a little bit later. I watched all of the first episode of Hard Knocks. My opinion of Nathaniel Hackett has changed a bit, having watched episode 1 of this. But my opinion of Nathaniel Hackett as Broncos coach has not changed at all. It was a terrible season.
Well, let's jump into it because it ties in with Hackett from last night. I watched it as well. He was known as being kind of not the butt of the joke, but he was the jokester. He was the rah-rah guy in the locker room from the coaching staff perspective, and known for being the hype man, so to speak, in Green Bay and everywhere he's been, Jacksonville and other spots. Is that the perception you got based on the games and things they're playing with Rodgers post-practice?
Yeah, he's got a big personality.
He's loud.
He was funny. He was getting on guys. He's getting frustrated. But he and Rodgers I joked that they're ping pong buddies. That Rodgers just really took to him.
That tracks.
Rodgers, talking about him also, says when he got the job in, I think he said 2018.
That sounds right.
2017 or 2018, whatever it was, in Green Bay, maybe 2019, that first summer, he's hitting me up 3 or 4 times to just chat and texting me, and I'm thinking, who is this guy? And he said, then the more you get to know him, the more you like him, and their personalities really mesh. Now, Rodgers gives it back to him also. You know, they're in practice, and he's like, why are you calling that? What are you saying about this hitch right here? It's not open, or this. And they're kind of cussing back and forth at each other. So I don't look at it as with those two, and this is the case with a lot of big-time quarterbacks in the league. It is not a I'm your boss, you know, you will do as I say, coach to quarterback relationship. It's a partnership. They seem like two buddies that like to joke around, and both are very competitive, and both can get frustrated and yell at the other, and it's going to be fine right after they speak their piece, and they can move forward. It's not a he's the coach and you're the player type thing. It's a partnership with those two.
This is Hard Knocks. It's more HBO Hard Knocks Aaron Rodgers than it is HBO Hard Knocks New York Jets. That was clear in the first episode. Where's all this the cooperation thrown out the window from the Jets' perspective too?
Yeah,
I thought this was fine.
They cooperated fine.
Yeah, and it's NFL Films there on site. It's not HBO crew. I mean, HBO's paying for the rights to air it.
The only thing they weren't cooperative on was anyone speaking to Liev Schreiber other than Aaron Rodgers, which was hilarious. And I thought Schreiber was funny, and he even joked, by the way, I wanted to drive over because he lives in New York City, but HBO thought it'd be funnier if I came in on a helicopter, where he broke the fourth wall. But Aaron Rodgers going to every teammate, hey, go talk to him, man. That's Liev Schreiber. He's the narrator. He's the voice of God. And everyone's like, no, I'm good.
And he doesn't sound the same.
He does sound different.
Yes.
I watched Ray Donovan, a show he was on for many seasons. He's got a Boston accent on the show. But when you hear him on that show, then you hear that, it took me a while to match it up that it's the same person. He's doing something to his voice. I feel like when he narrates, like it is a deeper version of his natural voice.
He just goes straight bass.
That he's doing when he's reading the narration of it. And he's cool talking about it too. He's like, I don't do anything. They write it all out for me. I go into a studio and read it, and then it comes out on the show and looks and sounds great. I love the first episode of it. And I also think Aaron Rodgers is the best personality at quarterback I've ever seen on this show. Now, this is coming off me watching all of quarterback, where I thought Kirk Cousins was terrific. I thought Mahomes was great on the show. But I am a Kirk Cousins fan now, just getting a chance to see his personality and his home life on that show. I'm going to be an even bigger Aaron Rodgers fan when this is all over. I loved him. And every single Jets teammate would, not even knowing they're on camera at times, talking to someone on the sideline, talking about Rodgers, and he's great. He's an awesome dude. Great personality. Loves cutting up with everyone. This is scoring a lot of points for Aaron Rodgers so far if you've watched this first episode. But you're right, Hutton. It is Hard Knocks Aaron Rodgers and not necessarily Hard Knocks Jets.
Featuring Garrett Wilson and Sauce Gardner.
Yeah.
They were superstars.
And Garrett Wilson was cool, too. And Sauce Gardner, we know, has a big personality. But Hackett, I like him, having watched this. I see it, I'm like, okay, I get it. I get why players like him. I get why guys defended him.
Yeah.
He seems like a likable dude. And how about the hilarious moment where they're playing the throwing game, where you're trying to hit the pylon, and they say something based off the movie Basketball to psych out, just saying something silly or anything to throw the person off right as they throw it. And Aaron Rodgers said Sean Payton softly to Nathaniel Hackett as he threw the ball. Really well done. I'm a big fan.
Derek Carr could break an NFL record that he doesn't want to top the list with, but it also shows longevity in the fact that he left the Raiders, I guess. So we've got 32 teams. No quarterback has ever lost to all 32. And no quarterback has ever lost to 31 different teams. That could change this year because Carr has never lost to the Panthers. He's certainly playing them twice with the Saints. Next year is when they're scheduled to play the Raiders, and that could be all 32. But I'm intrigued to see if he can revitalize what everyone feels like he could be. The version of the 2017, I believe, Chad, was whenever he was on that track, having a great year. Mariota having a great year the same exact time and the same day on that Sunday right before Christmas is whenever they broke their leg. The same injury as well. And things have been crazy since for both guys. Hopefully the new setting sets up well for Carr, but kind of a forgotten quarterback right now of all the movement we've seen.
Odds are he's going to lose one of the two to the Panthers, even though they're going to be starting a rookie quarterback, kind of the way it breaks in divisional play. And he'll be the first ever guy to lose to 31 of the 32 teams. I love Jeopardy answer facts like this, that 10 years from now, we could have on Jeopardy a question about Derek Carr being the only quarterback to ever lose to all 32 teams. Are the Detroit Lions still the only team to go winless in the NFL?
No, the Browns did it as well, because Jason McCourty went from a winless Browns team
That's right.
to a Super Bowl champion team with the Patriots.
But those are the teams you remember, right? Even if it's a dubious achievement, you remember the as I call the Lions, the first team to be perfect in reverse throughout in the season. Just like it's hard to go, it's almost impossible to win every game.
It is difficult to not win a game.
It's also very, very difficult to lose every game the way the NFL is structured.
And there have been some bad teams that win games.
And they did it.
They did.
They did it. Hats off to them and the Browns for making it happen.
So Kirk Cousins.
And I'll say hats off to Derek Carr if he gets this record also.
Yeah.
Hey, and look, you've got to play a while to get there too. So, I mean, I guess it's not all bad. You can joke and say, well, someone thought I was good enough to be a starter in the league for a long time and for me to get this record that I don't want.
So Kirk Cousins is 6th overall in NFL history among active players for contract at $231.6 million in career earnings. He has played this perfectly with guaranteed money. Whenever he left Washington, he was playing both. They franchise tagged him. That's guaranteed. Matt Ryan is at the top of the list by a couple $100,000 over Tom Brady at $318 million. Brady played 24 seasons, and Matt Ryan played 16 or 17, I believe. So there's a big gap there. But Ryan also got the guaranteed money. But Cousins,
which is criminal, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Matt Ryan's ahead of Tom Brady on that list.
But probably based on a pay cut that he took to.
Oh, it's all based on Tom Brady restructuring in New England to continue to win.
But at the
Super
top of the list,
Bowls.
you've got Rodgers, Stafford, and Wilson are also there. This was from last year, and now Cousins is back for the final year of his deal. But the owner of the Vikings is non-committal about bringing him back or not. And I'm thinking Kirk Cousins as a free agent would be a massive deal for another team, but it would not be followed as a massive free agent pursuit like it probably should be. He's not as bad as people believe him to be, and he's certainly not the top tier, top shelf QB, but you can do a hell of a lot worse than Kirk Cousins. And you put him in an offense that protects him, and you put a top-tier receiver in there like Justin Jefferson, things will go okay. You will be at the top of your division like they were a year ago with a chance to run it back with more talent and added talent on defense. I like where they sit right now. They're another under-the-radar team this year for me, Minnesota.
Yeah, and he's a guy that if he becomes a free agent is going to be great for a team that's got a really good supporting cast. Right? If you've got everything in place but your quarterback situation is shaky, I believe that he could elevate that team to an easy playoff type team that could go on a run. But also his history in the playoffs shows us that you can't rely on playoff wins under Kirk Cousins, and he's not someone who's going to take a bad team and make them good based on the way he plays the position, right? If it's bad around him and you're in rebuilding mode, he can I think win you 2 more games, but that might get you to 6-11 on a bad team. It's not going to be something that just completely transforms the franchise. But I also do not mind the Vikings taking this stance. I think far too often, we coddle the situation a little too much where, boy, there's only 1 year left on that contract. We better get an extension. We better make something happen. Or you hate your quarterback. You're showing you hate Kirk Cousins by being non-committal. No, you're not. You like Kirk Cousins. That's why he signed him to an extension 2 years ago. That's why he's playing out that extension right now through this season. Kirk Cousins lost his first playoff game last year. Wasn't all his fault, but he's got to go and win again and win a playoff game. That's what the Vikings are saying. I got no problem with that. He's earned his money so far. He's made a ton of it. I bet Kirk Cousins doesn't have a big problem with it. Got to go out and earn it again, and then if he does...
Short term is what he does.
Yeah, if this is an NFC championship game type team, and Kirk Cousins has the year or even close to it, that he did last year, guess what's going to happen to Kirk Cousins? They're going to re-up him in Minnesota.
Yeah,
and he's going to finish out his career there.
And he was the first player to get a fully guaranteed contract.
Yeah.
3 years, $84 million. That was 2017 or 2018, whenever he jumped to Minnesota. And then this year, he will play on a 1 year, $35 million fully guaranteed salary. So he's negotiated this every step of the way. Short-term deals. That's if you want a guaranteed contract as a quarterback, the short-term length of the contract is the way teams will allow you to do so. It's not just Cleveland that does it, but Cleveland did it at a very $230 million fully guaranteed 5-year deal where you effectively made Deshaun Watson an NBA player instead of having your coach and GM reign over the franchise. They're now attached solely to whatever the quarterback wants to do. Different with Cousins, who can throw for 4,000 yards, 3,500 yards, and no one even mentions his name. They're talking about Justin Jefferson, who the players voted number 2 on the best players in the NFL.
Justin Jefferson also comes out awesome in the quarterback
good
docuseries with you could tell they have a good rapport too, he and Cousins.
I would hope so.
And Cousins also said, we're not going to negotiate until March is my expectation. He knows the deal. He knows he's on a 1 year, go prove it again, and this time win in the playoffs thing. He's not hiding from it. I love that. I love both sides of this. Go earn it, Kirk. Go on a playoff run.
Yep. Improve on that 1-2 playoff record.
Yeah, go win some games.
Clay Travis joins us next. His thoughts on Portnoy getting Barstool back under his reign and much more. It'll be fun next.
Do you feel as if, well, I'm pretty certain I know your answer because I know how I felt in college. I had to take, my major was actually chemistry at first as well. And I had to take a lot of ethics courses and different, I actually took a gender study course as well. And I felt like I had to tailor my papers a certain way to get a good grade. And what I'm noticing is across the country, that's the consensus. Even in the South, like where I went, University of Kentucky, we felt this way. And so I entirely agree with you that this is, it's happening all over. About the backlash, how I mentioned, she came out and essentially used the argument of your argument was based in white supremacy. Have you gotten a lot of backlash, or do you just kind of get the name calling, such as being called a racist for saying freedom of speech should exist?
Isn't that crazy to be called a racist? Calling out being suppressed in school. It's so weird to see where people's heads are at. But yeah, there has been a lot of backlash, a lot of name calling, obviously. And the death threats are I'm going to show up at your house. I'm like, okay, please do.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a lot of that. And like, I haven't had a ton of questioning of what I'm saying because they actually have no objection to what I'm saying. They're just like, you're transphobic. And I'm like, okay, but you have no real argument. That says a lot more about you than me. And it says that my argument is real and I actually am saying the truth and you can't even argue against that. So you're just going to call me a name.
And I love that you can acknowledge that, because this cancel culture that we live in, they want you to think you'll be canceled. They want you to be scared of the name calling. But that really is all it is. And it speaks more to their insecurities than it does to yours. I saw people on TikTok, Olivia. I saw people coming for your eyebrows. Is that what they're going to resort to? And you're right. It's because they can't dissuade from your argument, which is actually really powerful. And it should boost your confidence. I think when people can look at a situation and take the negative, such as the backlash you're getting, which does suck. There's no taking away from that. It's not fun. It's not enjoyable. It does take a toll on you. But if you can take that backlash you're getting and ultimately use it to fuel your argument, I wish more people had that same perspective that you have. But what about the positive? Have you received a lot of good feedback? Have you had a lot of doors being open for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the opportunities that I have had are just absolutely incredible. And the support from people like you and all these other speakers who have spoken up about, men in their sports. And the ones that really stick out to me are actually the parents of young girls who are messaging me and saying, I have 2 daughters who are running cross country just like you did. Thank you so much for protecting them. Thank you so much for sticking up for them in their futures. And I'm like, that's why I'm doing this. It's not
Oh my
really
gosh.
for me, it's for all of these other girls, and not even just girls, but for college students, for young men, like all of these people, I want to help them. I mean, America was built on freedom of speech. That's why we are what we are. And colleges are now trying to take that away. And like we said earlier, it's going down a bad path.
You know, Olivia, you sound like you're filled with hate. You sound just super hateful. No, how could anyone listen to your argument and say that that's hateful? I mean, I hear the compassion coming from your voice, advocating for what you're advocating for. It really is for everyone, all ages, all sexual orientations, even all gender identities. That's who you're advocating for, to be able to speak freely.
Sixth and Peabody, our studio for OutKick and Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow, right here across the OutKick network. Sixth and Peabody, the home of Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Clay Travis joins us, making time for us off the book tour. American Playbook available now, and Clay's signing on the tour, probably at a bookstore near you. Clay, hope things are well, man.
I'm doing well. How are y'all?
We are excellent. How is the tour going? It seems like there's a stop every other day.
Yeah, it is crazy busy. I am in Cleveland, Ohio right now. I flew in from New York City early this morning. I will fly tomorrow early in the morning to Atlanta. Then I get to come home for a couple of days. And then I will be, if I'm getting the order right, Salt Lake City, Houston, Tampa, Nashville, Milwaukee over the next 8 to 10 days. I think I got all that right.
Congrats on the success, too. I should have started there because I know you said American Playbook is on highest on the charts based on the other books that you've written upon release.
Yeah, we're going to sell more copies of this in week one than any of my books by far. I think, we're a couple days in, but it was the number 6, I think is the highest it's gotten on Amazon book in America. And that was by far the number 1 nonfiction and the number 1 hardcover book in America. And the attention so far has been good, and I'm excited. I think we have a good chance to really move a ton of copies, and hopefully people enjoy it. I think it's an entertaining, smart book that is relatively easy to read, and if people like the things that I've written over the last 15 or 16 years, I think they'll like this too.
Clay, because I'm very interested in publicity for a book and how you go about it, how do you decide the cities, the locations you go to for the book signings?
So a part of it is the one that we went to in New Jersey is a New York Times best-selling, algorithm, right? So step back. The New York Times bestseller list is not, I always thought before I was a writer, it's very famous, but I always thought, it's just the 10 best-selling books in fiction or nonfiction. That's not true. They have an algorithm. How many copies of a book sells, but it's not just a ranking of what the 10 best-selling books are in any given week. So they have a reporting stores, they're called. And so the one we went to in New Jersey is my understanding, New York Times reporting store in the area. I think a lot of the ones that we're going to are, and it's a combination of that, but also markets where we're big. I think Clay and Buck is number 1 in Cincinnati, Columbus, and in Cleveland. So we basically run Ohio. And there's other smaller markets that in Ohio that we're big in. We're number 1 in Salt Lake City. We're number 1 in Houston. We're highly ranked in Tampa. So it's a combination of where we're number 1 in Milwaukee. It's a combination of where we're number 1 and where bookstores are able to put on good events. Because remember, I'm going in blind. In about an hour and a half, I'll walk into a Cleveland bookstore and I have no idea what to expect. Right? I don't know how many people are going to be there. I don't know what the event's going to be like. I mean, obviously, I've never been to this bookstore in Cleveland before.
So, Clay, the story with Barstool Sports and Penn Entertainment. Penn goes from Barstool to ESPN. ESPN now starting their own sports book with Penn Entertainment, but in doing so, gives full control of Barstool back to Dave Portnoy with no money exchange, but if he ever sells it and becomes liquid with it, 50% of it goes back to Penn Entertainment, and they can't have any sports book as a partner moving forward. Who won this exchange in this story? What was your initial thought? It could be the ESPN part of it, Penn, or what Barstool is now with Dave Portnoy. What was your biggest takeaway when you saw this report?
So my biggest takeaway is in the sports gambling space, FanDuel, DraftKings, and MGM, and then to a lesser extent Caesars, have basically taken over 90+% of the overall sports gambling market. So that happened really fast, faster, I think, than most people anticipated. And I think Penn/Barstool had around a 3% market share. And again, that's not definite. That's based on the studies that are out there. And so I think Penn basically decided we're not going to be able to be competitive with Barstool in terms of being a upper echelon major market share entity. And so they made the decision to effectively rebrand and decide to get in bed with ESPN. And as a part of that, they wanted to make sure that Barstool wouldn't just start a brand new sports book, or that Dave or other people who work at Barstool wouldn't just go off and start Barstool 2.0. And so they basically just bought his silence by giving him back the company. And by bought his silence, I mean bought his lack of competition in my read on all this in the sports gambling space. So I think the takeaway here is I think ESPN is going to fail. I think they're too late to the market. I think there's too much market share that has been developed. Fanatics is coming to the market too. I think there's going to be a massive amount of money now spent marketing-wise. I think DraftKings and FanDuel and MGM are going to try to protect their market share, so they're all going to have to spend a lot of money. But I think that ESPN is going to be spinning its wheels. I don't think it's going to have that. They're basically using the same brand. They're just changing the name. And if you're a big Barstool fan, I don't think you want to be betting on ESPN. And I don't think there are that many people out there who like to gamble that are up for grabs that haven't already downloaded one or two or three apps on their phone. So I think ESPN is going to fail. But I think there's going to have to be a lot more money spent because ESPN/Penn and Fanatics/PointsBet are going to go out there in the marketplace and try to take back market share from the three industry leaders.
Yeah, I'm not in a hurry to add more sportsbook apps to my phone and have multiple ones. So I think that is going to be a bit of a tough sell. But the one area I thought, well, maybe this could help them and work, and I don't know what they're planning on doing, but the only reason I go to ESPN for the most part on my phone is to check scores. If I'm checking a Braves score live or whatever, I'm going to that ESPN app on my phone. Clay, if they can integrate that score app and that feature on the ESPN app with, here's where you bet right on this score on some live action during this game and play it live, could that be something that could get them in competition with some of the bigger sports books you mentioned?
I don't think so. And I don't think so for this reason. I don't think there are that many people that haven't already been exposed to sports gambling. So in your scenario, if they had done this 5 years ago, then I would say, okay, this is intriguing. But I think most people who are interested in sports gambling have already started to gamble on sports and already have those other apps on their phone. Because if you did that, if you click and go through, that's how you would get there. By the way, the other aspect of this that I don't think has been talked about very much is ESPN can still take ads from every other sports book. So it's an interesting spot to be in, because the way I think about it is, okay, if you're worried about ESPN stealing market share, well, you can spend a ton of money on ESPN programming to ensure that your brand is still in front of as many people as possible when they're consuming ESPN content. It feels to me like Penn is throwing a Hail Mary here, and ESPN is basically coming to the marketplace late, and they're saying, oh, if we can be a major player, we'll take that chance. But otherwise, we're going to take, I think it's a $1.5 billion ad buy, basically, licensing fee, and with $500 million in potential warrants that ESPN could cash in on, I think if they got to a 20% market share. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Clay, got to get your thoughts on the Pac-12 and the collapse of the conference and the next step in determining college football playoff bids moving forward, and how soon you think we see everything change with college football from the super conference discussion that we've had for years.
So I think what's going to happen. So I was at Dollywood when all this was going down with my kids, but right before they went back to school. And I think this is where I was following Arizona State and Utah and their move to the Big 12, and then Oregon and Washington and their move. I think where this is all going is they're going to have to redesign, recalibrate how they pick the 12 playoff teams. I think the 6 AQs are going to get reduced, potentially get eliminated entirely. And a part of me thinks that the Pac-12 will just be officially done. I think there's a decent chance that some of those schools, we'll see what the ACC is interested in taking them, or I think they go to the Mountain West, and the Mountain West tries to make a case that, they're the new 5th Power 5 conference, and so you can get Oregon State, Washington State, Cal, Stanford in that conference, or Cal and Stanford, maybe Oregon State, Washington State, who knows, SMU. Maybe they decide to go to the ACC, which I don't think is a great fit, but that's what options are out there for the remaining 4 Pac-12 schools.
I'm interested too. If the Mountain West wants to be considered for the Autonomous 5, we were talking about a 16-team playoff, and we know Sankey and of course Petiti, but at the time Kevin Warren, they want more at-large bids, not automatic qualifiers. If there's a demand for the automatic bid, could you see a scenario where they're like, okay, we'll take your champion, but we're going to move it to 16, and that will allow more Big Ten and SEC schools to get in?
Yeah, I don't know if they would expand beyond 12. It's an interesting question. I think they like the idea of giving the top 4 teams buys, and that's why I think probably the most likely outcome is they go to 4 automatic qualifying buys, right? So the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the ACC most years would get those automatics. I wish they would just go to 12 and rank the final playoff 12, and the top 12 teams go, and you eliminate any of the uncertainty. There'd be a debate over 12 versus 13 or 14, just like there's a debate over, what are we at now, 68 who make the NCAA tournament, over 65 and 66 versus 70 and 69.
Now they're talking 96, possibly moving to that.
And we'll debate that too, probably.
Yeah. So, but I think if they could take the top 12, that would be the best possible outcome. And I do think one aspect of this that hasn't been talked about very much is you've really got an interesting move where essentially Fox has half of college football and ESPN has half of college football, because now Fox has all the Big Ten. And I know they sub-license some of those games, but let's say Fox has all the Big Ten, and then they've got Oregon, Washington, UCLA, and USC, so the 4 biggest brands on the West Coast. And then ESPN has got the SEC, and they've got the ACC, and then the conference is split, I believe I'm correct in this, the Big 12 and the Mountain West. So ESPN, I'm just curious how Game Day versus Big Noon, for instance, ESPN, this will be the first year, I believe it's this year, maybe it's next year. I can't remember when all these rules go into effect. But basically, ESPN has been boxed out of the Midwest and the West Coast, and simultaneously Fox has been boxed out of mostly the South, and how all that will play when it comes to picking games to go to.
Clay Travis with us. Clay, Chad and I were discussing this briefly earlier. How long could I sit at the table and sign your name at a book signing?
I saw that. Did SI ever issue a correction or anything on that article?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, we haven't seen it.
But if I sat down at your book tour, how long do you think I could last before
Until someone
figured
says
it
this
out?
isn't Clay.
I don't know. It's a funny question.
I've signed your name
people
before.
Who don't know. For people who don't know, you interviewed Albert Hainsworth, and they wrote about it on SI.com, and they wrote as if I had conducted the interview. So they said, Clay Travis of OutKick, Albert Hainsworth told him X, Y, or Z. I saw this, and I tweeted it, out, and it's really ridiculous, I guess, if they haven't even corrected it in any way, because they got you and me confused. I don't know if you should be more insulted. I think probably you should, or I should be more insulted.
No, it's just Clay is.
I'm
Clay is
insulted.
OutKick. Clay is OutKick.
I'm insulted for both of you.
I'm so insulted, Clay. I am going to change my Twitter handle to Hutton BGID.
Yes.
Yeah, that every bearded white guy with brown hair, who's roughly our body type, around 6 feet tall. We're just like, it's like we don't even exist as individuals. We're all one person.
You all look alike.
Clay.
Yeah, I mean, we're just twins, evidently.
Crush it in Cleveland, and we'll catch up soon.
All right, appreciate y'all. Thanks a lot.
Clay.
Coming up, Henry Ruggs sentenced today. We'll discuss the penalty and if it's large enough.
Davey Hudson of OutKick here. We are at SEC Media Days 2023 in Nashville, Tennessee. We're going to go talk to some players, see what they have to say. What's the best purchase you've made from an NIL deal so far?
Tag watch right here.
Far.
Best purchase? I probably just give it back to my son for real. That's probably my best purchase every time.
Man, pay my truck off. Definitely.
A house. My wife and I bought a house, so that's been huge. Being able to save that money up and buy a house.
This chain here.
The best purchase? I'd probably say helping my mom out with school.
Ooh, the best purchase? Probably the shoes. The shoes I got on right now.
The best purchase I made, well, the best NIL deal I've had is free steaks from Marksbury Farms, so keep me fed and beefed up.
With it?
Ooh, purchase? Probably a new golf bag. Or recently I played TPC Sawgrass this past weekend, and that was from I used that money from a deal I made, so that's up there too.
Probably getting my sister through college, helping my family out a lot. That's probably my best purchase I've done.
Best purchase? Probably my my mom and dad anniversary gift.
The best purchase I've made? I got a yoga mat the other day, and that's helped me a lot. Just flexibility and everything like that, so probably that.
Best purchase? My smile.
Best purchase? I would say my best purchase was having my school supply drive.
Landon, what is your favorite sports movie of all time?
Remember the Titans for sure. Sport movie, I say Love and Basketball. That's my favorite.
Got to be Remember the Titans for sure.
Remember the Titans. I mean, it's top movie ever.
Probably Longest Yard.
I'd probably say Like Mike with Bow Wow.
Yeah.
My favorite sports movie, Remember the Titans.
Air Bud.
Perfect answer, actually.
I really don't know. I don't have one.
Movie? I haven't seen many, but does Sandlot count?
Favorite sports movie of all time? Probably Coach Carter.
Ooh, sports movie. Probably The Express.
Happy Gilmore.
The Little Giants.
Amari, what was your most favorite sports movie growing up?
Remember the Titans.
Barbie or Oppenheimer? Which one are you and the boys seeing first?
I don't know the other one, but definitely not Barbie.
Oppenheimer, gotta be. I'm not against the Barbie movie though. I tried to recommend it. I was shut down pretty fast.
Oppenheimer. Come on now. You don't need to ask me that question. Oppenheimer looks good though.
What's Oppenheimer?
It's a movie about the atomic bomb. It's the big thing that comes out this Thursday.
Yeah, probably that.
Oppenheimer.
Wait, what was the other one?
Barbie or Oppenheimer?
The opposite of Barbie. The opposite of Barbie. Yeah, so I'm not.
We're gonna see Oppenheimer and then follow with Barbie.
Solid choice.
I don't even know Oppenheimer is. I don't want to see Barbie though.
Oppenheimer, 100%.
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer.
Say a little bit louder.
Oppenheimer.
Oh, we're gonna watch both of them. Maybe on the same night, but we'll probably watch. I think you gotta watch Barbie first, just so you're not. Oppenheimer might be a little too intense. You know what I'm saying? So you warm up with Barbie and then you go to the Oppenheimer.
The second one. Oppenheimer.
Sorry. Barbie or Oppenheimer? Which one are you and the boys seeing first?
Barbie.
Sixth and Peabody, our location with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network. Coming up in a matter of minutes, let's get weird with Davey Hudson. Plus, a bit later in the show today, we've got Curt Schilling, who will join us. Love the stories we've been able to dive into, and we will get some good brawls, fights, or maybe the potential of a couple.
I bet we get some broadcast stories out of Curt today, too,
sure.
both in his time at ESPN, but also interaction with broadcast crews when they're with you all the time during an entire season, right? Based on the Kevin Brown story with the Orioles. So can't wait for that.
Former Raiders receiver and Crimson Tide receiver Henry Ruggs sentenced today, earlier this morning, to 3 to 10 years in prison for a 2021 drunk driving case. Killed a Las Vegas woman, and her dog was in the car too. The speeds at which he was driving, crazy, and the blood alcohol content, insane. And the Clark County District Judge said it was one of the most tragic cases that she's had to rule over or witness through the court system. 3 to 10 years. So he is eligible for parole in 3 years on this case that he pleaded guilty to, and he's been on house arrest with electronic monitoring devices since he was pleaded guilty in May to 1 count of DUI resulting in the death and 1 count of misdemeanor vehicular manslaughter in the crash. Tina Tinter was the woman's name who lost her life. Meanwhile, when you see the car, I don't know how he survived this crash with the damage that was done. And now up to 10 years in prison because of that.
Yeah, really tragic all the way around. This is a little bit of some closure to it, but obviously no closure for the young woman's family with all of this. So terrible, terrible thing.
Damon Arnett, speaking of Raiders, he, a former Raider.
Raiders really
he
a bang up job here with these headlines.
He pleaded guilty to assault and drawing a deadly weapon. But by doing this, he pulled a gun on a valet. Was it because the valet was going to get another car first and he wanted his car now? I vaguely remember this with the details there. But he pleaded guilty, and it's not jail time. It's not prison time. It's 500 hours, 50 hours. 50, I can't read my handwriting. 50 hours of community service, and he pays court costs. But he cannot possess a gun, a firearm, moving forward in this.
Well, that's a good move. That last part, if you should not possess a firearm if you're going to flash the firearm and threaten someone with it because they don't get your car quick enough at the valet. I think on principle you should serve some jail time when you do something this stupid. I don't like that this comes with no jail time at all based on what happened. This is just ridiculous.
Well,
the thing about someone that you're going to flash a gun at someone because they're getting someone else's car before yours.
Well, in the sentencing, he told the judge, one of the last things he told the judge was, if I get back in the league, I'm going to kill it, talking about what he's going to do moving forward with his life. He's not getting back in the league. He's had other opportunities. Kansas City was one of them. and quickly flamed out on the practice squad there.
He's
He's
also on
not gonna
Miami's
be back.
practice squad. For a bit.
And Miami?
Yep.
Yeah.
There will be no more practice squads.
I highly doubt that Arnett is making any of the practice squads, even on a 91-man roster currently in camp. And this is the Mike Mayock, John Gruden era here. First-round pick.
Maybe the USFL will have him and we can interview him at some point.
You mentioned the Raiders. Maybe. You mentioned the Raiders, Chad. I would suspect that the Raiders are pretty high on the list that Davey Hudson has for us of the arrest across the league by individual franchises.
Yeah, so this was circulating on Twitter a couple of days ago, and it was a list of the teams with the most arrests since the year 2000. Thought it was interesting. I've been trying to, I guess, verify it. It seems legit. There could be some discrepancies here, but an NFL stats page put it out. It's not officially associated with the NFL. But if you guys
they wouldn't put that out. The league wouldn't put that out.
That's not something they're exactly going to be.
There's no press release.
Yeah,
putting out there for everyone to see.
Roger Goodell put this in his good works package on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah. The Raiders since 2000 have had 25 arrests, which I thought was a little bit lower than whenever you just kind of think about that team and some of the stuff that they've been through.
Yes.
That's right around middle of the pack.
Can we guess on the top?
Yeah, I was going to ask you.
I've not looked at it.
Who do you think leads the way in arrests since the year 2000?
Just based on feel, Cincinnati.
The Bengals are third, and they are third with 42 arrests.
I'm going back to the start of the century here.
Who else did Pac-Man Jones play for?
Yeah, the Titans, but the Titans haven't had many arrests, and we know that just firsthand. I'm going to say, based on headlines that are just popping to mind, the Vikings.
Vikings, second on the list, 46.
Wow. Something about the Midwest. I'm going to stay in the Midwest. The Browns.
They're seventh with 33 arrests.
Hutton, so far we've nailed top 10 in the league with all of our guesses. You got one next?
They're tied seventh. There's three teams tied at 33.
I've got one.
Go ahead.
Seattle.
Seattle is sixth with 34. They're right there. You guys are doing a really good job on this.
We're going to knock out the entire top 10 here.
Final one for me, Dallas.
Cowboys have actually done a pretty good job. They're closer to mid-pack. They're at 24.
All right. Who's at the very bottom of this list?
The very bottom. Well, first off, the Broncos lead the way with 47 arrests since 2000. But our bottom five teams, you have the Commanders and the Bills, Rams, Patriots, and Commanders all tied with 20, followed by the Giants at 29 with 19 arrests.
Patriots would have been my guess for best at this in the league. Fewest arrests,
sense.
yeah.
The Texans are 30th with 16 arrests, and then the Lions and the Eagles are tied for 31st with 15 arrests.
So Deshaun Watson was never arrested, right?
Correct.
With these charges? Because that's
all civil.
Man, if you just went with all the civil cases, though, that would put them in the top five.
And this was, as Goodell took over as commissioner, the arrests and the court cases were a big storyline across the league. You don't hear about that now, for the most part. It's more individual player than it is league related.
Yeah.
As a problem across the league because of the power that Goodell has and the suspensions that he was enforcing. Chad mentioned the name, Adam Pac-Man Jones. It is time for Davey Hudson's Let's Get Weird.
And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, talking now.
Guys, the Strange Wilderness intro actually makes sense today because I will say that all three of my headlines, which are going to be fill in the blank, so feel free to play along at home, are animal related. So I will read you part of a headline and you get to fill in the blank. We've done this before. To get us started, Montana blank attack leads to woman being airlifted.
Bison.
Elk.
Just letting people fill in at home, actually just add a little bit of silence there.
They can take their time.
It's actually an otter. I was very surprised. Otter attacks are very rare, but there were 3 women that were tubing in the Jefferson River in Montana, and this was last Wednesday, 8:15 local time. Stories up on Fox News, and an otter they think it might be territorial, could be a little bit of protecting its young or scarce food supply. But an otter ended up attacking these 3 women. They were able to get out, but one woman suffered injuries to her face. And while the ambulance came, they had to airlift this one woman to Bozeman. She's going to survived, but I'm not exactly sure on the extent of the injuries right now. But yeah, it's the first otter attack I think I've ever reported on.
Were these women floating the river? They like
They
inner
were,
tubes
yeah.
going down?
Yep.
Okay. That is a big fear of mine. I don't know if you have extensive floating on a river.
I've done it a few times.
Yeah, but
I'm not worried about
I
otters, though.
kayak. I don't worry about otters, but I kayak and I get on the inner tube. Kayak's not as much because you're kind of protected inside the kayak for the most part. But like the snake, I hate snakes, but the snake crossing and the fact that like you're just going right for it and you can't avoid it as the water takes you into it. I don't like the thought of that. But in a kayak, at least I feel like I've got my oar where I could smack it if something, a snake tried to get crazy, or an otter in this case.
Yeah. I mean, everyone's had the thoughts of like, I wonder, is it going to be like, for me, I think I'm dying of cancer or heart failure. One of the two. Can you imagine like knowing that, in the afterlife, I just died by an otter attack? An otter killed me?
Yeah, one thing I did want to say.
It feels like a stupidity death.
Luckily, she survived. But
like if we're alive at this point in our lives, it's because we're like the top 20% of smarts. I think like you only survive on common sense and smarts. Like if you die from an otter attack, I'm going to blame the human.
Yeah, we're not trying to pet the buffalo.
It's usually because a human was being stupid.
I did want to say, I know it's lower down the list, but for my fact of the day, I'll just go ahead and tell you, there's the difference between a river otter and a sea otter. A lot of people don't realize that. They just, you look at a sea otter, they're about 3 times as big as a river otter, and they usually have a white face. The river otters are typically just all brown. That's a river otter that you're seeing right there. And then the sea otter, there's the sea otter. So there's a quick difference there. And otters, this is just kind of cute. Obviously, the attack, not great. But when they sleep, they'll sleep on their back and they'll hold hands with each other so they don't drift away from one another.
That's what Chad and I do during the show.
Yeah, and when we go on road trips, we fall asleep that way every time. Davey, what's next?
All right, guys. So the headline won't read it, but this is a Texas woman, just to kind of give you a little bit more information, but a Texas woman attacked by blank and blank while mowing her lawn.
Blank and blank. Whew. I'm going to say a skunk and an armadillo.
I'm going to say birds and bees.
Birds and bees. All right. Well,
That's a good one.
You get partial credit, Hut, with the bird.
I like Hutton's
Oh,
answer.
this is Chad's nightmare.
It was a snake and a hawk.
Oh,
now, this poor woman.
What did this woman do to deserve this?
Yes, so Miss Peggy Jones.
Did she smite God?
She was mowing on her tractor
The new Job.
down in Texas, and what had happened was a hawk had dropped a
Job
snake. The snake landed on her arm, started to coil around her, basically constricting on her arm, and then the hawk, which had dropped it moments before, then comes down and starts trying to get the snake off of her arm. I will ask you guys, I have a picture of her arm. It is graphic, so if you don't want to see it, we won't show it. But I
don't want to see it.
You don't want to?
No.
Okay.
I don't want to hear any more about this story either. This is nightmare fuel.
Well, it just, I say this is a lucky
Snake
woman.
and hawk
I want
attack
to see
at the
it.
same
I'll
time.
see it during the break with you.
They haven't confirmed
You can show it. I just won't
if
look.
the snake was venomous, but she did not get bit by the snake. Her arm obviously was bruised from it coiling around her and constricting, but the scratches from the hawk were very bad. Her husband, Wendell, fortunately Wendell was close by, and when she came, they got in their Dodge Ram and went to the hospital. Yes, but they could not find that the snake had bit her, but she did have scratches on her glasses where the snake ended up striking. And she said that you could see the venom on the glasses. Obviously, fortunately, it didn't make contact with her. But that you talk about like dodging a bullet. Now, apparently, she was bit by a venomous snake a couple of years prior to this, made full recovery. But Peggy, man, she had a rough go at it lately.
I would do the high pitched wailing, saying "why" over and over, like Tanya Harding when she got attacked by the Jeff Gillooly.
Yes.
Or sorry, Nancy Kerrigan when she got attacked. Tanya Harding paying for the attack.
Nancy
The
Kerrigan.
why over and over.
Tanya Harding was like Wendell in this.
I would
watching.
sound like Nancy Kerrigan if I got attacked by a snake and a hawk simultaneously.
And guys, my last story for today, this movie will be coming to theaters near you on August 30th. But must watch, Killer Blank terrorizes sorority house.
So,
Al.
Yeah, but Al is really good. I'm going to say Killer. Let's go deer.
Sloth. And the movie is called Slaughterhouse.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah,
Where?
I don't think there's any redeemable qualities about this at all. I looked at the IMDb page, did not recognize a single actor, but it's one of those things, like, they've generated like over 1 million views on Twitter. They've had 380,000 YouTube watches so far.
First off, the star of the movie looks like she's 10. The front, I'm having a hard time buying her as a college-age girl. Up front looks like
she doesn't
something
look
from,
18.
looks like something from season 1 of
No.
Stranger Things when they were all 9.
The tease is don't rush, die slow. Slaughterhouse.
Well, it's had to be the sloth is not native to America.
No, she actually
So
got
it'd
it.
be an escaped zoo sloth?
She got it as part of a smuggler, and so then she brings it to win her sorority competition. I don't know.
Too many statements on college football. That's Chad's headline next.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the number 1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And
I mean,
what he reposted
did
and then how
he bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, bold taste of a Southern legend.
Just like that, the final hour of Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow is here on this Wednesday edition. Coming up in 20 minutes, Curt Schilling will join us. Looking forward to that conversation. Always great across MLB, but also the stories that he can compare with the stories of today, like the knockout of Tim Anderson. Always great.
We got to get his take on best fights he can remember in baseball history. Some that maybe he's been a part of.
Maybe. Or at least witnessed. Those guys don't want to fight.
I feel like the Phillies teams of the early 90s, they'd fight.
But who would fight them?
That's not a group that I'd say. They don't want to fight. They want to fight. They're ready for the fight. Mickey Morandini would fight someone. There's no doubt about it.
Plenty, yeah. Coming up as well with Chad in a couple of minutes, the statements that are being released across college athletics right now. First, though,
so many statements.
How'd you react yesterday with all the details coming out about Penn Entertainment, the ESPN partnership, them breaking away from Barstool and the brand, Portnoy getting his brand back solely and not paying $1 for it, but if he ever sells, 50% of the gross profits go to Penn Entertainment, and there's a non-compete involved with this as well. ESPN didn't want any association whatsoever with Barstool or Portnoy, and Dave in this case would know that, and so he doesn't pay $1 for a company that he sold for $500 million.
Yeah, I'd like to know, did he make all the $500 million? I'm guessing so. I mean, he started Barstool and was the sole owner, I believe, when they sold to Penn Entertainment for the $500 million.
It's a combined, but you're right. They bought a portion, and then they bought the full rights.
Look, my first reaction is, what an incredible win for Dave Portnoy, that he sold a company for $500 million when his stock, when that company was at its highest value, and now that the stock in the company has gone down, he's able to get the company back, wrestle it back from Penn Entertainment. He's the sole decision maker on everything now with Barstool, and he didn't spend a dime for it. Then you really get into the weeds of the deal, and you see, well, he's probably never going to sell it because he'd have to give 50% to Penn Entertainment if he does that. They can never have another sports book advertise with them ever again. He can't get in the sports book game as part of this agreement to not compete. So is he going to be spending a lot of money on Barstool and not making a lot in return for the next 30 years if he owns it? I don't know. I don't know what their balance sheet looks like and if that's part of this also. But, I mean, just face value, it's a huge win for him. He made a ton of money off Penn. He was with them from, I think, 2020 was when the sale happened to now. And then he gets it back, and he's got full control. He doesn't have to worry about Mincy getting fired because his parent company wanted him fired. And then for Penn Entertainment, they bet on the bigger horse. I mean, they said, we're not getting it done with Barstool. It wasn't as successful as they wanted. They didn't have the market share they wanted. They had to worry about things that Barstool was doing or saying for regulation. They didn't like that. So now they get to go to Disney and ESPN that, regardless of what you think about ESPN, has a much bigger following than Barstool.
For example,
much bigger.
ESPN gets 117 million unique visitors a month.
On their website.
Yes. Barstool Sports gets 8. So the reach there is massive. Traffic is nowhere close. And as Adam Ryan on social, who's covered this, says, ESPN is Goliath, Barstool is David, just in terms of those numbers. That's a huge win for Penn. Also,
there's a reason everyone talks and writes about ESPN, and ESPN doesn't do a lot of talking and writing about others. It is because, and I think ESPN's made a lot of missteps, but they're gigantic, and they're still gigantic, even though their business model's not as good as it once was, and they're not making as much money for their parent company as they were. It is Goliath. So this was a business decision by Penn to say, we'll go to ESPN and have less of the headache and have much bigger exposure, and maybe we can really get this sports book going. It's as simple as that for them.
In total, Penn receives 50% of profits of a future sale. Barstool can't advertise any sports books, according to this report. Barstool cannot launch its own sports book, which I don't think is a big hit on them because they could not get regulated unless it was for Penn. Penn was struggling. even in states where it was regulated, trying to get permits and other things aligned, and certain legislators didn't like the Barstool partnership. Portnoy receives Barstool back in his control, and no one can tell him what to do or what he can't say. And the brand is better. It's grown more. It's better than just the sports book angle that is what Penn paid for. Certainly a hefty number, but I think they said we can't grow to the level we need to be to survive if we're aligned where we are. And instead, they're paying ESPN over 10 years annually up to, and it will be exactly $1.5 billion over those 10 years.
Did you notice in the Johnny Football documentary there was a big photo of Portnoy drinking with Manziel at one point when they were showing Manziel on his $5 million bender, and Portnoy's right there with him? I say that to illustrate the fact that the Barstool brand is much stronger with Portnoy at the controls.
Yeah, right.
That
and
is
his
their
contract
brand.
was coming up in January of 25.
Yeah, the brand comes out of his mind.
Because there would have been a Barstool 2.0, and that would have left Barstool with Penn, and there's nothing there without Dave.
The perception is, with Dave Portnoy running it, everyone who became a Barstool fan, they are going to be more into it now than ever because there's no editing, there's no censorship. This is their guy. He's making all the calls. They can be as foul-mouthed and as politically incorrect as they want. They can do and say whatever they want. No one's going to get fired unless Dave Portnoy says they get fired. And that's what the Stoolies want. So I think from a branding perspective, I've always said it, Barstool is a brand. It's a strong brand. It's a stronger brand with Dave Portnoy running it and not a corporation.
Yeah, it's not a brand without him.
Yeah. The fact that Dave Portnoy got his you-know-what cut out from under him and they fired one of his buddies tells you what you need to know about a relationship with a corporation like Penn Entertainment and how you don't call the shots anymore if you're Dave Portnoy. So from that perspective, I think the brand is stronger now with Portnoy at the controls. And with Penn, I mean, Clay doesn't think it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to work to the level of FanDuel and DraftKings and everyone, but it's going to work better than it did at Barstool.
Well, for example,
I do believe that. I think it's going to be more successful.
In Illinois, Penn is the 7th largest handle of sportsbook with 3.7% of the market. FanDuel's at 43% and DraftKings is at 31%. So the question would be, does ESPN Bets raise their profile to where it's mentioned in a future acquisition? Well, in Illinois, this sportsbook is here, and it's FanDuel, DraftKings, and ESPN Bets. That's the market they want to be in. They want to be mentioned with the haves instead of the have-nots. And then the threats from the legislators, you got state senators and representatives that are saying, hey, we're not going to vote in your favor, or we're going to threaten to pull your license. And Penn pulled Mincy based off of that threat. And now Portnoy was able to break the news to Mincy that he's back with Barstool because it's Portnoy's Barstool.
This means you got to bring Mincy back. Of course. I could see us operating in a world where Brick Watch has to negotiate.
Forwarded to an automatic voice message system 504.
Mincy.
Holy that was I'm like floating down the interstate right now, Dave.
So you're coming back, right?
I'm coming back. Dude, I mean, like that's even a question. I told you it's a Brick Watch over those other offers. You were always my guy.
All right.
I mean, always.
Well, you're back. I mean, you're back.
There's no chance in hell I'm not. I mean, I'm happy. I mean, I can't even tell you how happy I am right now, and I just appreciate you giving me this opportunity. And I feel like I'm floating in space.
All right. Well, we'll get it all papered up. We'll just switch it from Brick back to Barstool, and we're good to go.
Done. All right.
Mincy's back.
I love it. Oh my God, I can't believe it. What a summer.
All right.
Thank you so much for everything. And like I said, my dad almost started crying when I gave him that watch. So much to him.
Yeah, it was a little blurry, but you could see the tears through the fog. But Mincy's back, so we'll work on next steps. I think
you said it just when I thought I was out. They pulled me back in. Like I said, the police video. weekend too. I love that you said that.
Yeah. All right. I'll talk to you soon, Mincy.
Baby, we're back. Oh my gosh! All right, let's do it. Can't wait.
All right. Bye.
Ben Mintz is back. Great dude who joined us a couple months back whenever he was let go by Penn Entertainment.
So Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, going back to this merger with Penn, and Penn is going to now be ESPN Bet. He says he's on an earnings call right now. I'm getting this in real time. He says that there's going to be 3 businesses that will drive Disney's growth in the coming years: movie studios, parks, and streaming. No mention of ESPN or ABC as part of that, which he's hinted at before. And then he talks about the Penn National or the Penn Entertainment part of this and says Penn made us the best offer by far to license ESPN brand with gambling. And they did listen to other sports books with offers, but Penn by far made the best offer to them. So there you go. Business decision for Penn. And now you get heartfelt moments like that from Portnoy and Mintz. And they get to reunite, and he gets to call the shots at Barstool, which I know everyone that works at Barstool is thrilled about.
No doubt. No doubt. Chad, Barstool has the emergency press conference. There's no emergency press conferences called across college football or the college landscape, just press releases. And I think I know where you're going here, and I can't wait to hear your take on how this needs to stop if they're not going to say anything.
Yeah, so Mountain West, okay, they sent out a press release earlier today. I'm going to try to pull it up. I had it up, and then my phone went to sleep, and now I can't find it. Let me give you the gist of what the Mountain West had to say. They said that yada, 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 we're all united, yada, yada, yada. We're going to look for other solutions, yada, yada, yada. Constant shifting of the landscape of college sports and realignment. So we're going to look at best options. They say a lot of stuff
There it is.
in this release. Met to reaffirm our collective commitment to the conference and its future. With the recent changes in membership composition in several conferences, the Mountain West is exploring all opportunities, exactly what I just said, to strengthen the league.
Well done.
Including through the
Yours was
addition of
better.
new member schools. Yeah, I could have written this thing. Board of Directors, Chair President Garnett Stokes of the University of New Mexico.
ChatGPT.
Commissioner Gloria Navarez will be the voice of the conference and will lead the ongoing explorations of possibilities before presenting any to the board. We are strong in who we are and proud of the exceptional experience we provide to the student athletes of the Mountain West Conference. I am so tired.
That sounds like a Power 5 to me.
Of statements. Yes. And also not when I see the president of New Mexico is a part of this. Sorry to the Lobos, but I don't think Power 5 when I think
Autonomous
Lobos.
5.
Yeah, I think Brian Urlacher and nothing else. I also think about Walter White in
There you go.
Albuquerque, New Mexico. Every conference could put something out like this right now. We have to get out of the statement culture where when anything happens, we feel like we got to generate our PR team. We got to wake them from their slumber and get some sort of statement to put out on social media. You don't need to put this out there. We all know what's going on. You're saying nothing. You're saying basically that San Diego State's overtures to rip the top of our conference out and pair with the American Athletic Conference did not work, and now we're united. Who cares? Here's what every conference is doing right now. If you have football programs playing FBS football right now, here is what you're doing. You're looking around and you're trying to do what's best for you. That's it. That's the statement. And I don't need to read that statement. That's what everyone's doing. You're going to try to see what's next, and if you can get out ahead of it, you will. And if you can do whatever you can to survive, you will. And if you can do whatever you can to get a little bit more scraps from the networks, if you're the Mountain West, you're going to do it. You're going to bend the knee and you're going to do it. So stop with the statements. No one cares. We all know what's going on. There's no need to release a statement. Hutton, I'm all for people working. I've long been consistent on I am pro-jobs. I don't want to eliminate jobs.
Yeah.
But when I see a statement like this in the Mountain West, my first thought is, man, some PR person for the Mountain West hadn't done a lot of work lately, and their boss said, let's get to work. Let's get a statement ready to put on social media. Also, put the statement up there one more time, please, where we can see it. Simply for this reason. That's one of the worst logos in all of sports. I hate that Mountain West logo. It looks like a printing company when I see that logo.
Might
The
as well be.
purple, the gray, the block, the weird. It's awful.
Someone was paid $80,000 for that graphic.
I noticed it during their conference basketball tournament on the floor. And I'm like, who's the local computer repair company that's sponsoring this event? Oh, that's the Mountain West logo?
It's like the state of Tennessee
logo. What says mountains or west about a purple and gray logo that's a box like that?
Well, to your
They
point,
need to have mountains in the logo. Like, put the Rocky Mountains in the logo. That would be cool. So, Hutton, I could do two things. I could write that statement as I just did by just saying it. I just dictated their statement before it happened, and I could design a better logo for them. Why am I here? Why am I not the commissioner of the Why am I not?
It's a statement of desperation.
New Mexico President Garnett Stokes. Why am I not that person?
It's a statement, though, of desperation because they have to feel united, even with San Diego State, a part of their conference, where San Diego State is trying to put together the best of the Mountain West, the American, and then, of course, them and the Pac-12 that are remaining, in order to form something else. And
you know why you have to put out a statement, though, saying you're united? It's because you're not united.
Right, and they're not.
If the conference is united, I haven't seen Greg Sankey send out a lot of messages to people saying,
SEC,
we're united right
SEC,
now.
Big Ten. For that matter, the ACC and the Big 12. The ACC has said they're open to expansion, but the other conferences have done the same thing without putting out statements of, you know what, we're unified with our member institutions. We're not trying to branch off with San Diego State. We welcome them now. We pay them their money based on their bowl game. They get their revenue because they're with the Mountain West. We're autonomous. We're a part of the A5 and the Power 5. Curt Schilling
Get rid of that
joins
logo.
us next on Hot Mic.
Two biggest social media giants, Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, are set to battle it out, and I'm here on Broadway asking people who they put their money on. Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, they're gonna fight each other. Who do you think's gonna win?
I think Mark's got him.
Really?
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
Because he's a man.
Okay, and Elon Musk isn't.
Oh, well, of course, he's got money.
Okay.
He's got money. Money, well, you know, money's money.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg in a fight?
I don't know. I'm going to go with Musk.
Why?
It just seems like he's a little bit younger, a little bit smarter.
You just got a good feeling about him?
I got a good feeling.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Musk.
Why?
He trains. That guy's going to beat his
But Mark Zuckerberg is actually training jiu-jitsu for 9 months.
Not happening. Not Elon Musk all day. Elon Musk.
Why do you think?
He has no soul. I mean, I think he's definitely just going to no holds barred.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. I feel like he's stronger and smarter.
Oh, Elon Musk.
All the way? Why?
All the way. He's an animal. Think about it.
Mark Zuckerberg's been training for 9 months jiu-jitsu. You think Elon Musk can take him?
Yeah, I think he could take him.
Elon, that oh God, stop playing with Elon. Elon really do this out here, for real.
I hope Elon
Really? Why do you think so?
got better ideas.
Zuckerberg's like 5'7", 155. Musk is 6'1", 190. But Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, who's going to win in a fight?
Oh, Elon Musk. No doubt.
Why do you think so?
He's the GOAT. I've been seeing all the Twitter handles and all the talk, and I'm on Elon Musk's side. I'm ready for them to get in the WWE ring and then come off the top rope. That's what I want to see. I want to see a people's elbow to Mark Zuckerberg.
If one was more likely to be a lizard or a robot, who would it be?
Elon.
Okay.
I think Mark Zuckerberg will win.
Why do you think that?
Because I think he already trains MMA. So he's got like the prior experience and stuff. I mean, they're both billionaires, so they have the opportunity to get the best training. But I think Mark Zuckerberg will pull away with the win.
Elon Musk.
Why do you think so?
Because he's bigger.
Bigger, okay, but Mark Zuckerberg's been training jiu-jitsu for 9 months. Do you think that matters?
No.
Zuckerberg, he's part alien or robot, so he may have some secret powers that we don't know about.
I was going to say, is that an advantage? Does he have an advantage over Elon Musk then?
Yeah, I mean, if he, sheds his skin and becomes an alien and eats everyone, yeah, I think so.
Elon Musk is mental, so Elon Musk.
All it is just he's mental. He's mentally crazy, so.
He just wouldn't care, would he?
Okay.
He'd just absolutely go for it. I think Zuckerberg would be a bit more refrained.
Okay.
If that should ever happen, which I doubt, but you never know, it'd be entertaining.
Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg?
Elon Musk.
Why?
Because my dad is in love with Elon Musk.
Okay.
I think I'm going to have to go with Zuckerberg. I mean, Threads just came out, so.
Who do you think would win?
Zuck.
Why do you think so?
Because he's not a real human. He's a robot.
So he'll use that to his advantage.
Yeah, and all the Krav Maga stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah. Who do you think would win in a fight, Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk?
Elon Musk.
Why do you think Elon Musk?
I think Elon's
He
smarter.
works with robots, so maybe he built a robot to fight for him.
But what if Mark Zuckerberg is a robot?
Oh, wow.
Then I might have to change my answer.
Who do you think is going to win?
Me.
Coming up, Northwestern back in the headlines. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow rolls on across the OutKick network. 6th and Peabody, our location, with Yeehaw Beer and Old Smoky Moonshine. Always enjoy our chance to catch up with Curt Schilling. You can check out the Curt Schilling baseball show, available at OutKick.com. He joins us now. Curt, good to see you, man. Studio looks awesome. The backdrops and everything. Very well done. Also awesome was the knockout punch from Jose Ramirez on Tim Anderson. Your reaction when you saw it for the first time, what came to mind?
I keep laughing every time I think about that, because no matter what Tim Anderson does for the rest of his life, that video's out there. Getting knocked out in front of millions. I mean, I don't care how they're not boxers. And I know if you saw towards the end when they were having to hold Anderson back after he regained consciousness, I think that was his makeup, trying to make up for getting knocked out. It was just, and he was out cold. Let's make no mistake about it. When he was going down, he was out.
You take that 3-game suspension if you're Ramirez, right?
My God, with pride you take it. You take
no
a
doubt.
6-gamer for that. My God. It was just, and there are, I was one of those guys, I was always trying to punch just because I was always first or second on every fight that I was ever in. And I rarely saw fights like that. But that was one of the reasons why I'll never forget the first fight I was ever in. I was my first year in the big leagues. I was with the Orioles, and I grabbed Mike Devereaux, our center fielder, and he almost killed me after the fight. And I learned, my first rule I ever learned was you never grab your own player in a fight. I didn't know that, but because you open them up to getting decked, and there are always guys who are going to pull the Armando Benitez sucker punch from outside the pile kind of thing, and you just got to be watching for him.
What is your favorite fight memory of your playing days at any level?
Rabbit punching A-Rod. When Veritek put his glove in his face, I was right there. I got a hold of him. I didn't get much in because I was afraid I was going to hit Tech, but that was my favorite one. I had a couple. I was in quite a few actually. In the '93 Phillies, we fought with everybody, but most of them were just, the whole bullpen runs in and it's over kind of thing. But the Boston and Yankee ones, those were real. We didn't like each other, and the fun thing was playing in a good state. Like in Philadelphia, and Boston, you could guarantee that you're going to see 8 to 10 melees after the team fights, because the fans just started, they lost it and they would start going at it. So those are always the good stadiums to be in too.
It's funny you mentioned the Phillies, because when Hunt and I were talking about this and previewing you coming on, we had mentioned, boy, those early 90s Phillies teams, they're two different groups of people, right? They don't want to fight when you see them. The other ones, they'll fight you. The early 90s Phillies would definitely fight you. There's no doubt about it.
If you remember, I don't know if you remember this, but in 92, we finished in last place. And we turned around and won the division in 93. In 93 spring training, we fought with the Cardinals, spring training 4 times. We wanted to make sure they understood, you guys don't scare us anymore. And we were bigger and meaner than all. They had Lee Smith, but he was usually sleeping in the clubhouse. We had the rest.
Of fights that you've seen, is Nolan Ryan, Robin Ventura the proudest moment for a pitcher that any pitcher could ever watch? I mean, do former pitchers just cue that up on YouTube and enjoy that once a day?
I never got charged, but I always had that in my mind, that vision of headlocking and just rabbit punching the hell out of somebody. To be just, I mean, that was, but again, why would you charge a guy who wrestles cattle in the off season? That just made no sense to me. And he throws 100, by the way, and he's going to hit you again. So hang with him, brother.
Never got charged at the mound, Curt. I'm curious though. Like there had to be moments where you knew, like, oh, if I go up and in right now, dude's charging me.
Oh no. I would tell you, I think I hit like 52 guys in my career. I might have hit 10 or less by accident. All the rest were on purpose, and for the most part, they all knew that they were going to. And I say this in a respectful way. I played the game right. I didn't throw at guys because they homered off me. I didn't throw at guys for acting like certain way or whatever. I threw at guys to protect my teammates or to defend a teammate that had been drilled. And I told this on my show the other day. I think I played the game with enough respect that people played it back that same way. When we were in, you remember the 1997 Marlins, when they won the World Series, you know, they were a stacked team, and they had Charles Johnson, the catcher, who was young in his career, and Antonio Alfonseca, reliever for the Marlins, had drilled Scott Rowland the inning before after he homered. Jim Leland's managing. Charles Johnson's leading off the next inning. It's late August, September. They're in the playoffs for sure. He sends a pinch hitter up for Charles Johnson to lead off the next inning because he knew I was going to throw at him. He didn't want Charles to get hurt. And they sent John Wayner up to the plate, who comes to the plate. And I'm like, oh, this is BS, man. And he's looking at the mound like, yeah, I guess it's me.
I'm here to take it.
And I threw the first pitch behind him, and the second pitch I got him really good, and he just walked down to first base. but it was within the context of playing the game right. Like I said, we didn't do this stupid stuff. And guys did less stupid stuff than as hitters too.
I'm curious about this. So if you're in the bullpen and you're running in, is there a code? Is there you may not even know really what it's what everything is about, right? Like, are you just there to hold people back, or you had the mentality of getting involved clearly, but are there players that have no idea what's going on? They're just looking to take a jab at someone?
The young guys are usually the most confused looking ones because they're not really sure what to do, right? They end up making mistakes and doing the wrong thing, and you learn after the first one. But the bullpen was mid-game exercise usually, but you never got to participate because things in baseball fights are. Rarely do you remember the Yankees and the Orioles. You know, Armando Benitez, that one that spilled in and out of dugouts. You know, the old Juan Marichal carrying a bat to beat somebody with those. Those are the rarities, and you know, rarely do you see actual physical contact unless you got some guys that really dislike each other.
You sound like you kind of miss it, Curt.
I missed that part of it. That was fun. I got to tell you a true story. I don't know if people. Steve Carlton was a eccentric, to say the least. Black belt, just a no BS guy. And I got into my first big fight, and it was with Eddie Perez of the Braves and Paul Byrd. And I was the first guy out there, and I grabbed Eddie Perez, and I ended up on the bottom of the pile. And I had my right leg wrapped around him, and I could feel my tibia bending. It was going to break. And I was yelling at the bottom, got to get up, got to get up, got to get up. And after that, I swore I'd never be again. So I started taking martial arts. I was in spring training, and I was talking to Steve Carlton. I said, listen, he was never charged, obviously, because everybody knew he was crazy. I said, as a pitcher, what's your thought process of hitters charging the mound? Dead serious. He looks at me and goes, well, once he gets to the mound, you put your thumbs in the corner of his eye sockets and you pop his eyeballs.
Oh my God.
And I was like,
amazing.
And he was dead serious. He's like, because as soon as he leaves the batter's box, it stops being a game. And I was like, no, okay, I'll go talk to somebody else because I'm not really sure I can use that one.
I mean, once that story spreads, if he says that, then you can see why, as Curt says, no one would ever charge Carlton.
Right. Yeah.
You know, what Jose Ramirez said after the fight, it harkens back to something you said, Curt, about, you said about yourself, I played the game the right way. You didn't hit guys for hitting a homer off of you or showboating or anything. It was to protect teammates. Ramirez said repeatedly, I'm tired of Tim Anderson not playing the game the right way. Yep. And this started with what he thought was too hard of a tag. I'm sure you played, maybe not with guys, but against guys that had that knock on them, right?
Yep, both ways.
Is that the knock on Tim Anderson? It's pretty clear there are multiple guys who don't like him.
I can only assume. Those are the kind of things that have kind of deep roots. You don't generally call a guy out for playing the game wrong after he does one thing wrong, right? I mean, if you remember, A-Rod did thing after thing after thing, and people were like, come on, dude. You know, this is not the first time I've seen someone comment about Tim and his respect to the game. I'm not really sure what that means, but I know that if you remember on the highlight, I thought that Ramirez reached back to try and get a hand to get helped up, and Anderson just backed off like, beat it, which is fine. It's kind of a Jeff Kent mentality. Jeff Kent didn't care who you were. He didn't like anybody on the field, and so you just kind of dealt with that. But I've heard that about Anderson. I don't know it, but that's what I've heard as well.
Curt Schilling with us on Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow across the OutKick Network. Check out the Curt Schilling Baseball Show at OutKick.com. Curt, so the Angels, they keep Ohtani. They're buyers, not sellers. And then they go on this losing streak where they finally won a game this month, last night. And they have a who's who of competition coming up in their division and elsewhere, where they've got Astros, Rangers, Seattle, and more.
They're done.
What do you? So what's the mentality now from that organization as they? I took it as they're trying to keep Ohtani, trying to prove they can win.
I think that was part of the intent, but they didn't follow it up by winning. I think they lost for the first entire week after the break, and the Rangers didn't lose. And it's like I said, if you look at the standings right now, you're talking about, they're only a game under 500. They're 12 back. They're 11 and a half, 12 back. But it's not that they're 11 and a half back or that they need to be 12 better than the Rangers. They got the Astros and the Mariners ahead of them as well. They've got to jump 3 teams. They're not going to jump 3 teams. In the wild card, they got to jump even more than that. So it's not, it's one thing when you're chasing one team and you can win 10 in a row and they lose 8 of 10 and you gain 8 games or whatever. That doesn't happen when you're chasing 4, 5, or 6 teams. So, I mean, their season effectively ended the week after the break. And it's unfortunate because I think they did try to do some things. But ultimately, it comes down to the players. Ohtani probably is on the bottom of the list of people you'd blame for them being where they are, but the players take the blame here, not anybody else. They've had the talent. You could argue that they haven't gotten the pitching. They tried to get it. I don't think there's any chance he's coming back. And I only say that, I'm going to caveat that by saying I don't know his personal preferences. I don't know how much he loves Anaheim. I think it's hard to hate Anaheim, but I think he's a New York Met next year.
Your former team, the Phillies, I feel like is a team that's figuring it out. They're in the second wild card spot right now, and they're 10.5 back of the Braves. I don't think they're going to catch the Braves. But, Curt, what do you think about this team, how they're playing right now? When you look at their roster, they got a chance to really make something happen again.
Well, anytime you pop a Nola and a Wheeler out, Aaron might not be having a typical season, but anytime you've got 2 power arms at the top of your staff, October can be an enticing thing. They're 10.5. I don't think anybody's going to catch the Braves, and I think the Braves are the team to beat. I think the Phillies will absolutely be in the mix. They've righted it. I think they're playing a little bit better. Getting Harper back was a big deal, but they're going to have to pitch better. They're going to have to pitch more consistently, and I think, like a lot of the teams at the deadline that made moves, they're going to have to get the back end of their bullpen solidified and get comfortable with that, because those are the painful, enduring losses when you start getting into August and September.
Curt Schilling with us. Curt, we've got a couple minutes left here. Have you played for an owner that was so sensitive that they would suspend the broadcaster for simply stating a fact like the Orioles did with Kevin Brown?
I got to tell you, I said on Twitter earlier this week, that ownership could F up a 1-car funeral. It is what Mr. Angelos did to the franchise should have gotten him kicked out of the game, number one. And then you see the team succeeding despite the owners now. They've scouted and drafted as well as anybody in the game in the last 5-10 years. It's a fan base that absolutely deserves a winner. They're a supportive group. I always call them the St. Louis Cardinals of the American League from a fan base perspective. They're smart, passionate. They love their team. And they've been screwed by ownership over and over and over again. And this, you know what? This is just the height of stupidity. But there's no doubt who the owners of the Orioles voted for. because this is a liberal tactic, is it not? You have control, and someone says something you didn't like, so we're going to shut you up.
Yeah,
which is just the stupidest thing you could do, especially in front of an intelligent fan base. If this happened in Tampa, would anybody really care? No, they wouldn't. But this guy's and
he wasn't even being negative. He was using a negative past record to illustrate how good they are this year.
Well, but and I hate to make it political, but in a political sense, it always comes back to that, right? When you argue facts with people who want to live in a dream world, facts are racist or bigoted or detrimental to the cause. It was what it was. They haven't won there. They've stunk there. He's just stating a fact, a statistical fact. And it shows you to be a weak coward is what it does. Because apparently the truth is so venomous that you have to force someone to possibly lose their job for it. Now you look like an idiot. There's nothing you can do to change that.
Yeah, and the storyline was their success. Now it's about Kevin Brown, who we didn't know the name of until they took him off the air.
I thought, my first thought was, oh my God, the pitcher that played is a broadcaster, and I didn't know it.
I thought the same thing.
No.
Curt Schilling has been our guest. Keep up the great work with the show, man.
Thank you, guys.
And again, great to have you on the show anytime.
Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, guys. Take care. Have a great week.
You too.
Thank you.
There's Curt Schilling.
Great fight stories.
Oh, I love the background that he'll give us on the stories of his playing days. And I love it. It sounded like he took martial arts classes just for the fights, which is amazing.
Which I respect.
I mean,
hey, Acuna got hit again last night, and I thought it was about to be a brawl for a second.
There should have been.
He slammed the bat down when it happened. He was frustrated.
Also frustrated, the coaches that are remaining at Northwestern football. That's next on Hot Mic.
What you're experiencing is the bold taste of a Southern legend. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, authentic Tennessee mountain-style spirits. We believe in crafting flavors that were born from tradition but defy expectation, and pioneering a new experience with every sip. Because if it doesn't do this, it ain't this. Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey. Come on.
Welcome into OutKick the show. I am Clay Travis, your fearless leader. I am going to continue to argue that sports is one of the great unifying forces in all of American life. ESPN is a sinking ship. Democrats are now the party of the white, woke college graduate.
We live in a land of participation trophies.
You gotta lean into the turns. You really gotta lean into the turns.
When Leah Thomas walked in that first day, it got silent, and every girl was uncomfortable.
Very difficult to go back-to-back years in the NFL with the #1 overall pick.
I just think the way Anthony Bass handled this was so sloppy.
Oh, I think it's perfect.
And what he reposted,
he
and then how he did it.
He bent the knee and bowed. He was going to catch the ceremonial first pitch.
I've been out of LA long enough to have forgotten that libs, no matter how ridiculous the scenario, are gonna live. Another week of inflation, another week with Biden with COVID, and another set of losers to crown. People don't watch the WNBA on TV, in person, on a plane, on a train, on a bus, or on purpose.
The scary thing, Tommy, is in the history of this government, I've never seen them give anything back that they've taken.
Oh no, they never do.
And they won't.
When you're behind closed doors, when you're talking to plant managers, when you're having meetings, when you're with the team, was there an acknowledgement of any of this, an acknowledgement of the situation, the boycott, and then the doubling down about moving away from the fratty image?
We've seen coaches throw water bottles. We've seen coaches act like idiots. We've seen coaches slap other coaches. But I think if you're involved in carjacking, you're inherently a rotten human being. The level of stupid that sometimes gets on our YouTube chat just gives me a headache. You're born a male, play with males. You're born a female, play with females. Don't at me about it, people. I'm pissed off about this. I never did it before in my life, but Trump is being cheated. The American people are being cheated. We, ladies and gentlemen, are being cheated.
I believe this person is the greatest player anybody alive will ever see. How can you hate Derek Jeter? A guy's on-base percentage tells me his batting eye, and a guy's slugging percentage tells me if he's a threat. That's the kind of guy that throws a no-hitter, that effectively wild guy.
Old Smoky Moonshine and Whiskey, a bold taste of a Southern legend.
Fun show today. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow, Wednesday edition. Always fun, but Schilling brought it. Earlier, Ryan Leaf, if you missed any part of that chat.
Go back and watch it.
Absolutely.
Great perspective on Johnny football.
Same with Clay Travis on Portnoy, Barstool, ESPN, and Penn, and much more. Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow rolls on.
By the way, Bob Iger continued to talk. I've been watching what he said. Talking about ESPN, he said, selling ESPN or finding a partner is less about cash liquidity and getting cash back and more about finding the right partner to go direct to consumer.
So
they're going to be less about the cable network and more about ESPN, the streamer, moving forward. So they want a league, is what they've talked to, about partnering with their distribution to be a big part of it, right? Like if Major League Baseball put a bunch of their local games where you had to pay for it and not go through cable, but you went through the ESPN app, that would be a strategic partner for ESPN.
Well, an interesting timeline here. I was reading an article last night. So HBO Max, which is now just Max, right? They are, which is it Warner? It's Warner Discovery.
Yeah, Warner Discovery, yep.
They are
all these companies that have merged. You forget who all merged.
Yeah. So in the postseason for Major League Baseball, they are going to offer, starting then, they're going to launch their sports branch of Max that you'll pay for. They're talking with the NBA for next season, this upcoming year. The NBA on TNT, they will offer certain games on Max. It will not be exclusive to Max, though, until they renegotiate that. So anything you can get on TNT, you would be able to get on Max, but you could stream it that way. So I bring that up because they're trying to do the same thing with baseball, and they're doing it with the NBA. You have ESPN and Disney saying this with Iger. And then you have the NFL, who has on their end, as of the last year and a half, said they are looking for a strategic partner for their NFL app, for NFL TV. And what's the future of Red Zone? And can you just be a la carte and buy one game for your favorite team, or buy, the league pass? That's the next concept. And will the NFL? They were the top league that was mentioned for the ESPN partnership and potential purchaser. Would that make sense from that angle? Because they would in essence, they're doing what Penn is doing for ESPN Bet for the league.
Yeah, possibly. I just find it so everyone is trying to lean into streaming, right? That's what all that Bob Iger's talking about. Also, they just went Disney Plus, which started as $5.99 a month. They just announced it's going to $19.99 a month. There's a huge increase in what people are going to pay for it. And he basically said, when we started it, we put it together so quickly, we didn't know what we needed from a cost standpoint. So now we're adjusting.
That's an easy excuse.
But you have Lachlan Murdoch and Fox, who's all in on linear TV.
Well, that's where the ratings are. That's where the money is.
For sports.
Yeah.
And that's all in on linear TV for sports.
And ESPN, while, the model is live sports, live events, and they have so many different outlets, whether it's streaming or with all the channels that they're supplying, they need content. And that's the other part of it. If you're streaming, how much you dictate how much content is there and what's not, but the primary focus is on the channels that you're currently offering to subscribers that are paying you nearly $10 a month, whether or not they watch it or not on their cable bill.
Yeah, there's just a big debate to be had about, what's best. I find that Apple TV is a good example. I find myself on Apple TV more and more, mainly because they release shows once a week. And I think, man, gee, what is that a lot like? Oh, TV my entire life is how I preferred it. It's not everything all at once, but it's getting an episode once a week. Netflix broke that model, and people loved it. You could binge shows whenever you wanted and watch them straight through. And there's some appeal to that also. But from a business perspective, we got two different strikes going on right now in Hollywood with writers and actors. But from a business perspective, what the executives are now seeing is, man, we really had it best when we had television, the old TV model. That was what was best. We rushed to streaming, and that's cost way too much money. And these companies are all losing money on it, most of them. And that's forced a problem that may not have had to have been there.
It took money to get off the ground. Then in the meantime, you have those that are cutting the cord that are, right now, ESPN's, the purchase price of ESPN Plus is less than what you're paying on your cable bill. If you're, like me, that would be watching one of four channels on whatever subscription you have for a cable service, and ESPN's one of them, you're paying more to get it through that cable service than what you would be paying just ESPN Plus for the monthly subscription, which is crazy, which means it's going to going to rise, and they're going to raise the fee of that moving forward.
Yeah, and I honestly, I just don't want to mess with it right now because I've had DirecTV for so long.
I don't have a problem with that either.
But if there comes a time where I move and I have to get a completely new setup, probably going to go with YouTube TV mixed with streamers and have the basic, 25, 30 channels on a YouTube TV. That's pretty inexpensive, and then mix in streamers that I want. And ESPN Plus or ESPN, the streaming app, would be one of them that I already own.
Chad, Northwestern coaches, they're wearing their frustration.
They're fighting back.
Oh, yeah. So coaches and players showed up to practice at Northwestern and staff members wearing a T-shirt that says Cats Against the World with a number 51 on the shirt. That was Pat Fitzgerald's old jersey number. And that has led to Derek Gragg having to release a statement saying that they were extremely tone deaf in wearing this shirt. Extremely disappointed in the few members of our football program and staff decided to wear the Cats Against the World T-shirts. Neither I nor the university was aware that they owned or would wear these shirts today. The shirts are inappropriate, offensive, and tone deaf. Let me be crystal clear. Hazing has no place at Northwestern. We're committed to doing whatever is necessary to address hazing-related issues, and they mentions the investigations that are going on. Yeah, they're not going to tell you that they're purchasing or wearing these shirts, and you kept them around. The staff that's frustrated that you let their head coach go.
Let me just give you the translation of what's happening here that they're trying to say. They hate you. They hate the administration. You fired their boss that they liked. They liked working for him. They came to work for Pat Fitzgerald. You fired them. They think that it's unjust, regardless if it is or not. And everyone can get their own opinion and base their own opinion off the facts of the case and what happened at Northwestern. But this coaching staff and these players, a lot of them hate you. They hate the president and they hate the AD because you are seen as the machine that drove out their coach they came to play for and that they love. So they're going to wear T-shirts like this, supporting their coach and talking about us against the world. Also, the Cats Against the World mantra is the most predictable thing in sports ever when you face a lot of adversity. Well, guys, backs against the wall. It's us against everyone else. No one likes us. They think we're creeps. We're crazy. So let's go prove them wrong. That was understandable, and you knew that was going to be the talking point with the team. Here's the other thing that's happening. If you remember the old Seinfeld plot line where George Costanza was just trying to get fired from the Yankees to get another job, that's what's happening. They want a buyout. They're going to test their bosses to get fired.
I just did a quick search because I'm thinking about David Braun, the interim coach. Here's the storyline, because we just read the statement from Derek Gragg. David Braun was asked about the shirts, and he said it is his job to support his players and staff members. Quote, "It is not my business to censor anyone's free speech." That is the story with this, not Derek Gragg releasing a statement on behalf of the university that's under investigation from the top down now. So that's why the statement's released, by the way, not because Derek Gragg necessarily believes it, but because they are under investigation from a former attorney general in the Obama administration that is looking and investigating in the handling of this moving forward. So when a situation pops up, like a T-shirt issue with a number that Pat Fitzgerald wore in college, this is the statement that's released to show that you're in control from the athletic department standpoint. And David Braun is in control of the staff, even as the interim head coach, and he's sending the message back up the food chain saying, yeah, it's not my job to police free speech and what they want to wear on the practice field. Well done.
Yeah, it's also...
it's not against. By the way, this is not this is not against the. Oh, we're pro hazing. This is the university has admitted that they cannot prove that Pat Fitzgerald knew or did not know about what was going on. They've admitted that time and time again. So they've got their coaches back.
Yeah, it's pro Pat Fitzgerald. It's not. Yeah, you're right. It's not pro hazing. It's pro Pat Fitzgerald. It's pro us.
Right.
It's pro our players. It's Wildcats against the world. Also, I mean, if you're David Braun, though, it's got to be a little weird when you're the new acting head coach that just got hired and half your assistants are wearing a shirt supporting the fired head coach. But you're looking on the practice film like, so these guys work for me?
Well, but David Braun, though, 6 months ago, also joined a staff that Pat Fitzgerald.
Oh, no doubt.
So, I mean,
but you see the point. Like, he's not wearing that shirt.
But he's also not, I mean, he knows he's not back there. You don't say this statement. You say something similar to what Derek Gragg had to say to keep his job just now. If that was the if you're trying to play ball with the university.
I think psychologically, first off,
he wore the shirt by saying that statement.
It's all a strain. It's all tough. But I mean, if you're Braun, you've been around him less than anyone else, and now you're put in this difficult position. And I'm sure he's approaching it the right way and saying, I don't want to be here either. I came here to work for Pat Fitzgerald. We're all in a tough spot, but it does have to be a little bit awkward when you're previous boss, but now you're the boss. Everyone's supporting the previous boss.
But the awkward part would be he's only in that position because he just got there, not because he's going to rally everyone and they're going to move forward here. But he also knows everyone's rallying around their previous boss. He knows that all those guys know they're done after this year.
Yeah, it's a situation that feels like it's doomed to fail and fail miserably for Northwestern this year.
Yeah, agreed. Chad, one winner for the $1.5 billion jackpot and the Mega Millions. My question, though, a ticket sold in Florida has won the Mega Millions. If you won 1.5, which ends up being nearly $800 million after taxes, probably. Are you coming in the next day letting us know you won, or are you keeping it private because everyone's going to be hounding you?
I keep it private until it's in my account.
Oh, then you're going to let everyone know you got.
Then I'm going to let everybody know that I quit.
No, not quit. No, I'm saying
see you guys.
Letting everyone, your family. Everyone's coming out of the woodworks to get a piece.
No, I would not tell a soul other than my closest family that would know until they verify and I get that transfer into my account. And then I tell the world at that point. Now, is every lottery winner of these mega, I feel like it's always in Florida. This was a national thing, right?
There was a $1 million winner in a drawing in Tennessee last week, I believe.
But I know I had friends that went and bought the Mega Millions in Tennessee over the weekend because it got up over this $1 billion threshold.
The winner of the
I would just like to see the
record, the
statistics.
record
I feel
winner
like
was from South Carolina.
Every big lottery winner is in the state of Florida.
Winning ticket was sold at a supermarket in Neptune Beach. There you go.
Good for them.
Yeah.
But no, you wait until you've got the money.
Have you thought about?
I go through the full process.
Have you thought
first.
about payouts for friends and family? What you would give as a gift, or would you?
I'd give gifts out for sure. I need to see what it is after taxes.
It's about half.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. We'll see who's been naughty and who's been nice.
It's less than what was offered to Mbappe.
I would give out gifts, but there'd be a tier system for gifts, right?
Chad's handing out iTunes gift cards. And
yeah. Enjoy this $250 to Outback Steakhouse on me.
Davey wants that right now.
Splurge for the Bloomin' Onion. Go ahead. You can do it. It's $250.
Back at it tomorrow, 3 o'clock Eastern on the OutKick Network.